secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar technical specialist, writer, author, and public figure. Jack is a member of 2 paranormal teams, Spirits of New England, based in Winthrop, I believe, is that Massachusetts or Maine? Maine. Okay. All right. Winthrop, Massachusetts, San Diego Ghost Hunters, based in San Diego, California. He was born in Troy, New York, in January 1963. Jack grew up in an area rich in history, legends, documented haunted graveyards, historical buildings, and Revolutionary War battlefields. Jack's interest in the paranormal started at a very young age. This was driven by the fact that his mother had many experiences of her own, which she often discussed with him. The home he grew up in and now raises his own family in also helped to pique his interest in the paranormal. In addition to his wife and their 7 children, it is also home to what he refers to as a friendly spirit, which seems to keep an eye out for the family and the home. In 2004, his interest in the paranormal was rekindled by the TV series Ghost Hunters and the scientific investigation methods utilized by TAPS. These methods are very similar to the type of engineering and specific methods that Jack has been using on a daily basis for the past 30-plus years in his career as a senior engineering technician and project leader for the U.S. Department of the Army. In 2009, he was made a full member of the paranormal team Spirits of New England, based in Winthrop, Massachusetts, which was founded by his friend.
Long version. That's right. Most people know who I am these days. It's I'll let you finish up. If you really want to finish, I'll let you finish. But you got the long version.
All right. Yeah, you gave me the nice one. Since 2011, Jack has also been writing paranormal articles and stories for Paranormal Underground magazine as a regular contributor. Jack is also working on his first book about the investigations of his East Coast team, Spirits of New England, as well as a comic book series also based on the team and their investigations. In 2014, he first appeared on episode 106, When Spirits Talk, of the new television reality series Paranormal Survivor, produced by Our House Media, located in Toronto, Canada, and which premiered in the summer of 2015 on U.S. cable network Destination America. Jack also appeared in numerous episodes of Season 2, in which another client case of Spirits of New England was featured, and as one of the show's paranormal experts. Jack is also one of the series leads for the new OHM-produced paranormal series Haunted Case Files, which premiered on August 28th, 2016 on cable network Destination America. I did it.
Whew. And you know what? I hate to tell you, you got an old version, too. I don't know how he gets to that one.
You're going to have to update me for next time.
I got to send you the new short updated version. That's what I got to send you. Since then, I mean, we've done all that. I mean, Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons came out in 2017. It's been doing very well. It sells pretty good on Amazon. That's the one that's got different stories in it. Some of them are based on my team's actual investigation, Spirits of New England. Some are just totally made up. We're in the process of another book. I had finished another book, and this is what we were talking about just before the show. I'm giving a paranormal course through my local college, Hudson Valley Community College, which they picked it up, and it's the course text for the book, or the course text, is my book, Paranormal Research, a comprehensive guide to building a strong team. So I'm giving a course based on that book at my local college, which is I'm really excited about. And that's why part of why I said I couldn't stay the whole show with you tonight, because I actually got to get back and I got to get some work done on the next class for the next class on that. And just stuff I'm preparing for it. So that's the only reason why. I always have great time on all these shows, but I've had to cut some other ones short too because of this. I got so much going on, Tessa. It's crazy. So I've got that book out, too. I've got the comic book that's been out since around 2016 or 2015, something like that. We've been doing a lot of other stuff, been on a lot more shows, did Haunted Hospitals, A Haunting, My Worst Nightmare. There's another show coming out called My Paranormal Nightmare that I'm on that. There's just a ton of stuff we got going on. Ton of stuff. So it never ends. And then all the events and everything else we run around to. Matter of fact, we'll be going to an event next weekend at Central PA down in Pennsylvania. The Central PA, what was it? Central Paracon, Carly? Yeah, that's my cohort in the background, Carly Hall. So it keeps me straight on things too. Just a ton of stuff going on, Tessa. Tons of stuff. That's where we're at,
Well, that's awesome, and I want to thank you for your service as far as doing what you did in the military.
Well, I'm just civilian military. I work for the Department of the Army. I work in the engineering. We work on all the weapon systems and stuff. So don't thank me. Thank the soldiers. I'm not a soldier. Never was in the active military, but I support them. With the work that we do as far as being civilian military. So.
Well, yeah, but where would us soldiers be without our weapons, right?
Good point. Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's my whole reason why I like doing it, because we make sure they get the best stuff they can have out there. We really do. We truly, all of us who work in that engineering, we really want to make sure our guys get the best stuff. And we're not private industry. We are civilian federal employees for the Department of the Army. So it's not like we're making profit off of anything. Our whole purpose is to make sure our guys get the best equipment they can have. And I work on large caliber weapon systems, which is like the tank guns, the howitzers, mortar weapon systems, all that stuff. That's what we design, and Waterville Arsenal, where I work, produces those items. So yeah, we do the best we can for those guys, for our soldiers.
And it's very interesting. And you said this paranormal class is actually through a college?
Yes. Yeah. I reached out to my old alma mater, which is Hudson Valley Community College. I reached out to them a year and a half ago. Told them about my book, about what I wanted to do. I gave them a basic outline of the course of what I wanted to do. And they said, well, let's talk about it. Let's think about it. And maybe it'll be good for the fall. And it was getting too close to last fall to get in. So they said, let's maybe think about it for next year or whatever. And then I didn't hear anything back until about 3 months ago. And they contacted me and said, Mr. Kenna, do you still want to do your course? They said, we've talked about it, and we're willing to take a chance on it and see how it all goes. I'm like, yes, I do still want to do my course. So they're like, oh, awesome. So I got hired as an adjunct teacher for the college, and I'm giving the course as an adjunct teacher for the actual college, and it's college support. It's a non-credit course. It's only for the month of October. It's 4 different classes and an investigation in between at Cohoes Music Hall here in the Albany, New York area, which is a well-known haunted location. So we're working with them. They coordinated all that with the Cohoes Music Hall for our class to come in, and we'll just investigate for the night. And I'm actually teaching them how to really investigate. It's not just a ghost hunt. This is not a ghost hunt. This is not a whatever. We're going through a course material based on my book, Paranormal Research. It also includes talking about spiritual protection, because it's a spiritual realm we deal in, and how you need to have some type of spiritual protection from spirit as far as your faith or belief system goes. Not talking about any specific one, just in general. And different protection stones and stuff you can use. And then we get into the equipment, what we use it for, what it was really designed for, how to best set it up to get the best chance of capturing evidence of paranormal. Matter of fact, this week they had homework to do to review EVPs and all that stuff of cases I have done. I didn't tell them what's in there. They've got to find the EVPs based on information I give them and everything else. They've got to try to see if they can find them and then tell me what they think it says. And so they're going through all that just to learn to get kind of an ear for listening to that stuff.
You're so smart. I need to start a college course and make all the college kids listen to my EVPs for me.
Well, these aren't even college kids. Interestingly enough, most of them are getting like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and they really want to learn, and they haven't done any real investigating yet. I mean, they've been a couple of them on ghost hunts. Few of them have not done anything at all, but they want to learn and they want to kind of get involved with a team. So what we did is we broke the. Carly is helping me to give this. My partner I told you about, Carly Hall. She's helping me give this course. So we broke them up into two teams: Team Carly, Team Jack, and they're building their own teams. That's part of it too. Is building a team and who's best for what roles as far as your team leader and your case manager and all this. So we're making them do it all. So they're sorting it out. So they're actually ending up with their own teams in the end, because they all live locally. They're all local. So once they're done, if they want to keep going, they can keep going, you know.
Well, could you imagine like you starting to do this over here for this college, it actually becoming a course for people? Because I've heard like a lot of possessions and so on and so forth are more rampant now than they were in the past, and so that's why they've made the exorcism prayers and such in different languages so more people can do it. So that's cool. You're paying.
Yeah, it is, and we're talking about doing more advanced classes later on. This is just a basic course, get you started, get you the idea of what it really is, what real investigating is really about, what it takes, because we talk about working with private individuals and what that takes and stuff like that, and gathering information from them before you go into a case and all that stuff. So this is kind of what these people kind of want to do, which is good. So yeah, we're trying to teach them all that, because we've been doing it. I mean, me and my teams have been doing that stuff for years now, and we learned the hard way. We also did reach out to other teams to get information and get help, but we still had to learn, the hard way. Nobody showed us everything. We used to go to some of the events that Jason and Grant held early on with the Ghost Hunters stuff, and we learned a lot from them. But even those, I mean, they were fairly well organized and stuff, but it wasn't like a course. You didn't have homework to do. It was, you didn't have, they didn't get into a ton of detail about stuff, and I'm trying to do that with this course, with the book involved too. So they have reading homework and everything else they got to do. So they're doing it. Surprisingly enough, they really are interested, and they're doing it. So I'm really excited about how it's going. But yes, I would like to try to take this a little further. Yeah, and Hudson Valley is at least locally here is they said, if this goes well, yeah, do you maybe you want to do it again, So we're talking about it. I mean, we're going to see how this all finishes up, but it looks like it's going to finish up really well. So there is interest out there, and I know there's even more interest from other states. I've already been contacted by people all different states now about, hey, you can take that here, you can bring that here, you can do that here. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah. Maybe I may need to retire from my full-time job and go start doing this. That's my second job.
I think you're paving the way for this to be a new course, and
whether I am or not, it's something I did want to try. I did want to try to. I always said I wanted to try to further the field a little bit more as best I could, being one person. So if I can make a little bit of impact, and maybe it inspires others to do more, great. That's great to me. Maybe I'll have had a little bit of impact on the field, We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But I would like to start, kind of doing it in other places and stuff. If I get the reaction from other people that this group is giving me that I'm giving it to, I'd be ecstatic, And like I said, it's just been something I always wanted to do, which is why I wrote Paranormal Research the way I did. I actually wrote it to be potentially used as a textbook someday, whether by me or maybe somebody else. But I did write it for that purpose.
So do you feel like all these different shows, Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, so on and so forth, Paranormal State, have kind of paved the way for us to, like for me, after Paranormal State, I felt more comfortable with myself because I had issues throughout school and such, having people judge me and ridicule me for things I said, so I learned not to say them anymore. But I think today, the way things are on television and on the internet, as far as YouTube and Facebook, I mean, it's everywhere. Do you feel like that's
Yeah.
helped us a lot in this field?
Oh, absolutely. Those guys, I mean, whether you like some of the shows or not, they have helped pave the way for where we are right now compared to what it was. If you look back to the way it was in the 90s, it wasn't as well accepted. Like you said, people ridiculed you, stuff like that. But after Ghost Hunters came out and after, Ghost Adventures came out, say what you like or don't like about the shows, it did make it more of a household word, paranormal, right? I mean, it made it more acceptable to talk about. It actually got to the point where it became cool to talk about. So, they definitely had an impact and a positive one. There's always negative that comes out of everything too. There's other negative things that came out of it, but you can't have it both ways. I mean, you can't have just a positive thing come out of it. People, there's groups that come out of it looking for a way to make more money. There's other groups that came out of it looking to find real answers. I mean, so you get good with bad with anything, right? I mean, you got to take the good with the bad, but I think it's had more of all those shows, I believe, have had more of a positive impact than a negative one in the end. Definitely to the field, right? And I think it's just maybe what I'm trying to do with it is take it that step further and help people to realize, TV is one thing, but real investigating is another. And just because you watch something on TV and you go out and do it doesn't make you an investigator. All right. Why are you doing it? What's your intent of doing this? Is it just to entertain yourself, or is it to try to reach out and really help people, or accomplish something, beyond just, I want to get scared. I want to have that experience. Well, all right. You do that, you may end up with something you don't want. But if you're doing things, whatever your intent is, if you're doing things, I think, for the right reasons, then you can have a positive impact on a lot of people, and that's all I try to do, I guess, is just try to have a positive impact on people.
It's so important to help people with these things because there's not a lot of help out there, and a lot of times it seems like an entity or a ghost or whatnot will target one person, and that person is experiencing all these things when nobody else in the household is, so they start to feel like they're crazy.
Right.
Have you found that in any of your investigations?
All of them. I mean, yeah, all of them. We found that with everything. Every time somebody asks you for help, who legitimately wants it and needs it, they're either terrified of what's going on, they don't understand what's going on, they feel like they don't have anybody they can talk to. So that's one thing we do is, you can talk to us anytime. If something's happening in the middle of the night and you just need to feel to talk to somebody, pick up the phone and call us. If I don't answer, I will call you the next day because I may be sleeping, right? But you can leave a message and at least talk, and the person who's going to listen to that message on the other end is going to listen to you, and at least they're going to believe what you're talking about, and they're going to be sympathetic towards you and try to give you an answer when they come back to you. So we do that for our people that reach out to us. I hate to say clients, but it's a lack of a better word because we don't charge them anything. It's all free. But for lack of a better word, you're providing, in a way, a service to somebody. You're trying to help them. They're reaching out to you for help. So, I mean, they're your client in a way. Paying you or not, they're still somebody who's looking to you for help. So, and we do the best we can. We have other people we can reach out to if something is a little bit beyond what we ourselves, our team ourselves, can manage. I don't have an exorcist on the team per se, but I know several. If it came to that, if we needed one. We do and have learned over the years a lot of things of our own of how to do proper cleansings of homes and things like that, and prayer over people who want prayer, and which prayers to use for that, being just laymen ourselves. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can do to help people, and even just figuring out what's going on in their home and letting them know, no, you're not crazy. There's something going on here. But they also may have stuff going on in their lives that they need to reach out to other type of professionals for, whether medical or psychological or whatever. And we help them try to get them help point it in that direction too. Because I have found with many cases, people who do have issues that they've repressed a lot of stuff, they're drawing negativity to them. So they have to deal with their own issues and negative things they're holding in order to, ease that and get rid of that negative things they're holding in themselves, so that negative things aren't attracted to them all the time.
Yeah, we had spoke to Amanda from Durango Magazine. We did an interview earlier, and now they're on an investigation right now. But we had a client down in Aztec who was having, like, her husband being pulled out of bed and being attacked, so on and so forth. She wasn't really getting attacked, but he was. She had so much trauma during her childhood. After investigating her home and hearing all of the stories, so on and so forth, we told her we think she needs to go see a therapist to work through these issues, because we believe that she was the energy behind that, whether it's drawing something negative in or being a poltergeist, so to speak. But you can't, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Like, we told her that, and then we just got contacted recently by them, and we investigated them 2 years ago. Now they're saying there's 70-something spirits in their house. Well, they still haven't gone and gotten the help they want, and I doubt there's that many spirits in their house. But
yeah, I do. I would too. Yeah. That's why I just got to chuckle a bit. But all you can tell them is, look, and I have cases I work on for years. Okay, working with the people to keep them on track. Because people tend to fade off track, and sometimes it's not constant. Don't get me wrong; it can be just a phone call once every couple months or something like that. And you say, "Well, are you still doing this?" Well, I thought everything was good, so I stopped doing it. No, you have to keep doing it. You have to keep up with getting back to your faith. You have to, make those appointments and go see the psychiatrist or psychologist and talk to them and work through the issues that you told us about. And they're like, well, I'm so busy. Well, this is important. You don't have anything that's more important than some of these things you need to deal with. And if you don't, nothing's ever going to change. And it's getting people to make lifestyle changes sometimes. And that's hard to do. I mean, it is hard to do. People don't want to do it because it takes a lot of work. It does. It takes a lot of work. But I have seen at the same time, working with some of the people like that, and they finally realize, yeah, you're right. And they start doing it. You see these significant positive changes in their life, and they're like, wow, you were right. Wow, my whole life has turned around. And that's when it's like, there you go, and you've made this huge impact on these people's lives and for the better. And they're very grateful to you for that, We make friends that way. We make a lot of friends that way. And some of them turn to try to help other people, and some of them just go on with their lives, and that's okay too. They're happy. They're for the first time in their lives. And that's when it's like very satisfying. You've done what you could, and they finally listened and they turned things around. So and that's why I say when you're working with residential cases and private individuals, it's a commitment sometimes. It's not just a one and done. It's not just go in, investigate. Oh, here's your EVPs, here's your this and that, and you're done. You walk away. Right? What did you do? I don't know. You validated some things for them, but did you give them the total help they probably really required? No. So, I always tell people, like even these classes, it's a long-term commitment. It's something you got to think about. Do you really want to do this or not? And you got to make that decision for yourself. Is it what you want to do, or would you rather just? And there's nothing wrong with it, going out and just trying to gather information on the existence of the paranormal and try to prove the existence of the paranormal, even just to yourself. And this is fine too. There's nothing wrong with that. But working with residential cases isn't for everybody. It's just not for everybody. But we really like it. That's what we do. Yeah,
and I liked what you said about using protection, something you have faith in. What works for one person may not work for the other. It's all about what you believe in, what your faith is, and what you believe works for you. You have to believe in it in order for it to work.
That's right. That's right, and it is important to what we do with this field because you're talking about a spiritual realm. You're talking about human spirits, non-human spirits, potentially demonic things at times. And you don't even with human spirits, you don't know what kind of human spirit you're really dealing with. It is somebody who was always happy when they were alive, or is it somebody who was always miserable when they were alive, and they want to make you miserable too? So you want to make sure you have this type of spiritual protection that you don't bring things home with you. Is more or less what that's about, seriously. So, I mean, that's the thing of it, right? That's why I talk about it. Because a lot of people don't think of it. It's surprising how many people don't think about that. It's like, oh, I never thought about, you're talking about human souls here. You're talking about, people just don't have bodies, and they will follow you home sometimes, you got to be careful,
Yeah, my teammate earlier, she was saying before she even realizes that she's brought something home her daughter has, and she often refers to her daughter as her mom or mother, and she's like, oh, I got scolded by my mother again. I accidentally brought something home, and so it's so important to do these things before and after you leave a case.
Absolutely. Do whatever works for you before, do whatever works after. I also carry different protection stones on me, black tourmaline, or I'll also carry white quartz, which absorbs energies. So I do carry those types of things with me too. But I use prayer and my faith and my belief, and I use the white light energy techniques and things like that to push things away. Create a protection of my own belief system around me. And I try to tell people about that and teach that a little bit too. But in those particular cases, people can learn some techniques from you, but they've got to look to whatever their own faith is. And I'm not talking religion there. We're just talking about faith or belief. And they've got to turn to that to really protect them. So you got to you should have a strong connection with that, when you go into this. I do have a friend of mine who doesn't believe in anything. That he works in this field, and he's recently finally run into something he didn't know what had happened to him, and he became partially possessed. And that's all he can explain it to. He'll tell you, I didn't really think that would happen. But it happened to him, and he didn't. Another friend of his who has a strong faith was able to help do a cleansing of him and get that away from him. So he's like, well, what do I? He goes, I really don't believe in anything. What do I do to protect myself? I said, well, you can still use the protection stones because that's just the energy of the stones themselves. It's just how these particular different crystals and different things function. So you don't necessarily have to have a belief. I think I still bug them. I say you should find one, but I said you can use the stones and they will offer some protection for you. So oh, okay, because it's just the energies within the minerals and materials themselves. So he's starting to try that. So we're working on him with that a little bit.
So is white quartz also referred to as selenite? Because I do carry the tourmaline and selenite, which is a white stone, but it looks kind of chalky.
No, the white quartz is more clear. It's like it looks like I don't want to say glass, but it looks maybe like a
crystal.
Yeah, it's a crystal. It looks more like a fractured diamond kind of thing. You can see inclusions and different stuff in it, but it's usually clear. And then what did you say you were using? I'll repeat
selenite. It's
selenite.
Selenite, I believe.
Yeah, Carly's looking up for me to tell you more about what that does for you. She's my stone person and crystals person. Selenite, yeah. So, different ones do different things for you. Yeah. And most of them are like will absorb energy, especially if it's a quartz type of thing. Selenite, I forget what that one does for you. What does selenite do for you spiritually? It is a protection stone, yeah. Oh, it helps open you up, she says. Okay, so it helps. It doesn't ground you, but she says, but it opens up your spiritual abilities more. Okay. Okay. So it would actually help you interact with spirit more. That
Nice.
particular one. Yeah.
Yeah, we
But
use
it offers no protection, though, so you might ask something to come in and it just draw it in.
Yeah, we use the tourmaline to protect from the dark energy, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
We use the selenite to draw in the white light, or the good energy, basically.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about intent, what your intent is. So whatever your intentions are with using them, it'll work that way, or it should work that way. And that's why I tell people everything's about intent. Like even people who are I get clients who use Ouija boards and things like that. And I'm not a big one on Ouija boards. I don't like them. But they say, well, what is your intent? What is your intent on it? And I did have a client who she always just used it in her home to try to contact her deceased husband and her deceased son. And for years, no problems. She just made contact with them. She didn't run into a problem until she took it to a friend's house, and they tried to contact her deceased husband. This is an older woman. Tried to contact her deceased husband, and something negative came through, and they got scared, so they just closed it up, and she took it home. She never ended the session. So she brought it back with her, and she started having problems after that. So again, it's just all about intent. And when you have other people involved with it that aren't, your family, you don't know what their intentions are or what they're thinking, when they're using the board with you. So they drew in something negative. Yeah. So, and it went home with her, and it was very bad. And we ended up having to help her get rid of it. And actually, her own deceased husband helped her get rid of it, too. Very interesting. It was a very interesting case. And then he left after that because he felt he was, if you believe the dream she had and what she was telling us, which was a very vivid dream, he came to her and said, I think I'm causing you problems with all this, and I'm leaving you, and the house is yours, everything's yours, and you won't see me again until your time comes. And she never saw him again after that. And
wow.
And her daughter and stuff they decided, well, we're just going to take the spirit board away, and they did, and they never used it again. And it's been quiet ever since. No problems, She misses talking to them, obviously, but she doesn't try it anymore either. I said, just talk to them like you were talking to them. You don't need a spirit board or anything else. If they're around, they'll listen. You could always just talk to them, So, but we're pretty sure he left, and he'll come back when, it's her time or whatever, and that'll be fine, And I think he felt that way, that spirit felt that way, because she had used the Ouija board, and it did bring something negative in. So it created a problem.
Well, yeah, especially when you don't close it out correctly. And I used a Ouija board once. Okay, I was not raised, but went into the LDS church at the age of 7, and then left the church around the age of 15 or 16 and went back and forth or whatever. But I was always told not to use the Ouija board, not to play D&D, which I love playing D&D. and I did use the Ouija board one time when I was in MRP, which is the Marine Rehabilitation Platoon, and there was a fella by the name of Black that had one, and he was killed in training. He was actually run over by a tank. And so we were passing the Ouija board back and forth, and I actually had an experience talking to my mom. At first, when I tried to go on and asked to talk to her, it said no, and so I was like, F you, I'm going to go take a shower, and came back. Nobody was there, but the Ouija board was still on my rack, so I got on there. One of the rules, you never get on by yourself, but I didn't know that. Right. But I got on there and started using it, and instead of starting off slow, it was just like immediately bumping around everywhere, saying all my siblings' name, tell them I'm okay, that I love them, everything's going to be okay. And then I asked her several questions about what it's like in the afterlife for her. And I was so excited to tell my dad the next day. And then he kind of burst my bubble when he was like, hey, you do realize that could be some other spirit trying to pretend like it is your mom. But how would it know all these things except for they do hear your thoughts? When you do talk to the dead, you don't have to say it out loud. You can say it in your head, and they still hear you. So they could be feeding off of that or whatnot. But for me, it was a good experience, and I closed it out. It was weird because when my platoon mates came up and were trying to get my attention, I didn't hear anything. I didn't feel them nudging me. I didn't hear them saying my name. Eventually I did, and I was drawn back out of whatever was going on, but for me it was a good experience, but I never did it again because of what my dad had told me.
So you were in a bit of a trance, actually, is what, you really got absorbed into what was going on there. Well, I always tell people, I mean, if when you did that, if you were comfortable with it, if you felt like it was your mother, or, whoever you were talking to, family member, then it probably was, especially if nothing else happened after that. You close the session, things are quiet, and nothing negative ever happened after that. It's very likely who you were, because your intent was just to do that. So that was your intent. And that's probably who came to you, because she was probably around you anyway. So you had a positive experience with it, because you were doing something specific. Your intent was to reach out to someone specific, and not just, hey, let me just try this and see what happens. That's when you run into problems with anything, and using any of the equipment we use, because it's no different. I can use a K2. I'm still opening a session. I'm still talking to spirit, right? I don't know who's on the other end, but your dad was right in a way. You don't know who you're talking to necessarily. It could be something demonic, and they know everything about you. Okay, they know everything. I've run into them. I deal with cases like that. They know my given name, because my given name is not Jack. They know my given name. So they'll come across my given name, or they'll start, using my kids' names and use them as a threat and things like that. So they'll give you a glimpse into the future. They'll give you little things that you don't realize at the time. You may not realize it till later on. They gave me, one case I was on, it gave me a name of somebody who I hadn't met yet until a year later. And then while I was going back listening to the audio for another reason, I'm like, pardon my French, holy crap, that says Rick's name. His whole name, first and last name. And I'm like, I'm going to send this to Rick and see if he recognizes it. I didn't tell him what it says. I say, hey, Rick, listen to this EVP. Tell me what it says. And he comes back, he goes, shit, that's my name. So even he heard it. No. I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, that was the first demonic case I ever had. So, they will, give you these little glimpses of the future, letting you know kind of who and what they are without coming right out and saying it. So, you got to be careful. You definitely got to be careful. But I would say your experience was definitely a positive one, and I would think that you were talking to who you thought you were talking to. And that's okay. You did it. You did it once, and you made contact, and that's a positive thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful. I know people who know how to use the Ouija boards, and they know how to open a session, how to close a session. They do prayer before and after, so that only positive comes through for who they're trying to reach. And they know how to do. They've been taught how to do all that. Most of them went and learned up in Lilydale, New York, where the spiritual community is up there, and that's where they learned. They learned from people who've been doing it for years and decades. So there's right ways to do it. There's wrong ways to do it, and that's about any of this stuff. And that's part of what I'm teaching in my class that I'm doing too. Is right ways, right ways to approach this. Next week we'll be talking about talking with spirit and different ways to talk to spirit, and approach that. How to approach that, because you don't want to instigate.
Right. My mentor, she used a Ouija board like it was a cell phone. And she'd use it all the time, and she invited me to come over, and she was also a part of my paranormal investigative team, and I was like, no, I don't feel any need to get on there, but I'll film it.
Yeah, there you go.
She's like, no, that's okay. But the owl word in Spreaker was asking, can you close a session from years past?
It's a good question. Do you still have the original board?
That's what my first thought was.
Through a Ouija board, or are they talking about through whatever?
If you have the original board, I think you would be able to, but I've never had that question before.
Yeah, because if the board is out there somewhere, then God knows where it is, and if you left that session open, unless somebody else found it and used it and started a new session and closed that, then if they're saying because they picked up something, guess what? You don't worry about the board. Worry about getting find somebody who get rid of that attachment for you. Because the session isn't going to matter anymore.
Yeah, he said
you
no,
could
not
potentially, close a session from years ago.
he
It's just a
said
matter of
they
closing the port.
sorry. He said they don't have that board anymore and they tried burning it.
Oh, bad idea.
Yeah,
Never burn
yeah.
a board. No, don't burn a board. What you want to do is bless it.
Right.
You want to close the session first, make sure that portal is closed, and then you want to bless that board, do a blessing on it. And that will actually ruin the board. It'll seal it completely. And that board will never work again once you do that. So I've done it. That's how I know that. I've been taught that by others. So it just destroys you. Nothing will come through it ever again. So yeah, if you don't know where the board is, it'd be interesting to know. Like I said, does that person? Why are they asking that question? Do they have a problem right now? Do they have what they think is an attachment, or
Well, he was
what
saying
happened?
that his wife's issues started shortly after she had used it, and he's asking on account of his wife, as he just mentioned again. But I guess she had an issue. Do you think if they don't have the board anymore, if she were to go in to a church or whatnot of her choice and get a blessing there, that they would be able to help her that way?
Yeah, I work through your faith first and foremost before anything else. I mean, um, some people aren't comfortable telling their minister or whatever about what they've done. But I would, you have to be honest with why you want that blessing, because otherwise there's different blessings and for different things, right? So, for your minister, priest, or whatever to really help you properly, they need to know what you want the blessing for. If you just like go into the doctor and say, my arm hurts, but really what's bothering me is my stomach, but I'm just going to tell them my arm hurts. Well, you're not taking care of the problem. I can't give you the proper treatment without knowing what's really going on, right?
Yeah, just like with your doctor, you have to be honest with your priest as well. Otherwise, they can't
That's right.
fix your issue.
They can't help you properly. They may get mad at you. Okay, so you get your little yell at, and they help you. It's like take your medicine. That's all right. I would do that. I would tell them, a while ago I did this, and I don't have this board anymore, and I think ever since then these negative things have been happening, and they can help you through prayer. It's probably not going to be one prayer. It's probably going to take quite a bit of prayer. And that's what people need to sometimes realize too, especially when we're working with people who are having problems. There's no magic wand I can wave and make it all go away, right? This takes time. You may have picked it up fast. It doesn't go away fast. It takes time. Especially if you want to just work, you're working with prayer and things like that. It takes time. These spirits don't want to leave willingly a lot of times, right? They'll keep trying to come back. So you have to really have faith. You have to pray. The priest, your priest or your minister, pray for you, pray over you, and then keep following what they suggest. They're going to suggest things to you. Do it. Follow through with their suggestions for different prayers everybody can tell you to say every night or every day or whatever. It's never one and done. It doesn't happen. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah,
it's no more different
nice.
than getting yeah. I mean, it's no really different than saying, hey, you got strep throat. Take this medication for 7 days. You don't take it for 1 day and then think you're cured, right? It's not going to go away. You got to take it for that 7 days. Same thing. You've got to follow through. I mean, it's not maybe 7 days. It could be 7 months. It could be 7 years. It could be whatever, You don't know until it's gone. Until things get better and change, then you can – even then, I tell people, don't relax too much. Just get into a regular routine of praying and asking, for assistance and to keep yourself positive and keep positivity around you and become a positive person. Try not to make sure your family is happy and you have fun together in your home, and especially in people who have hauntings, bring some fun into your home. Laugh. Right? I mean, play some games together, laugh together. As they do, yeah, a negative spirit hates that. That's not what they want. They want to feed off your fear and your anger. So if you're not giving them that, right, and if you're not giving them that, guess what? They're going to go away because they're not getting what they need. So that's a big thing to remember, and that's what I would suggest to the individual in the chat. I don't have chat room open. But that's what I would suggest. Go talk to your priest, tell them the truth, or minister, whatever it is. Tell them the truth. Tell them why you need their help, and they'll very likely help you. And they'll point you in the right direction. If they can't, or if they don't seem to want to, there are good paranormal teams out there who will assist you and can help remove attachments and things like that. But it's still the same thing. It's never one and done. It takes time. You just got to deal with it. But start with your faith and your church first.
Yeah, it's easy to get that attachment. You don't even have to be playing with a Ouija board or doing a paranormal investigation. You could be going to a music fest or wherever else, and something will be like, wow, there's a little crack or chink in your armor. Let me attach. And it's really easy for them to attach, but like you said, it's somewhat difficult to get rid of it. He was also saying that it generally doesn't rear its ugly head or show up unless they talk about the paranormal. So they don't discuss anything like that at home. Otherwise, things start happening again.
Well, yeah, that would make a little bit of sense. But that still doesn't mean you don't have an attachment there. There's not something in the house, at least, anyway.
Right.
And you don't want to have to live your life that way. That's like saying, well, as long as we don't do that, everything's okay. So you're letting something run your life for you? Right? Okay, if I don't talk about Joe's drinking, then everything's fine, right? I mean, that's just, maybe an extreme example, but if you don't talk about the alcoholism, everything's going to be fine because he won't get mad or the person won't get mad. You really want to live your whole life that way, I mean, No. Don't. Go to your priest. Tell them what's happened. Tell them what's going on. Help them remove that for you so you can. Because you know what? It starts off with just that. Next thing you know, something bad will start happening every time you talk about something else. And they're going to keep. They're like bullies. They're going to keep bullying you until they're running your life for you. You don't want that. So go get it. Yeah, go talk to your priest, go minister, whatever. Get it taken care of. Get the help you need now before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, and he said that they have moved several times, so I would think it's attached to her.
It's attached to her.
Yeah.
If it's following them around, it's attached to her.
And he also said to thank you for the answer and advice.
Yeah, no problem. That's what we're here for, right? That's what we do this for. Trying to help people.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So give it a shot, and then if that doesn't work out for you, you can reach out to us again. We'll try to point you to somebody who can maybe assist you if your priest or minister won't. But try them first. But you can reach us. We're here. Find me on Facebook, Jack Kenna. Look it up. I'm there.
And it can be difficult because
or you, Tessa. I mean, you're there too, so
Yeah, look us up. We'll help you as much as we can. But yeah, some
Absolutely.
Priests or preachers, if you're not an active member in their church, don't want anything to do with you. So that's where I advise you, if there's different chapters or different branches or whatnot, reach out to each one because every person is different, and one person could be less judgmental and less of an a-hole than the last, and somebody is willing to help you even though you're not there at church every Sunday or paying tithing or whatever they're looking for. Like, they're there to help, and that's what their jobs really are. Right, so look for those guys that are willing to help.
That's right. Because hey, they're just people too, and some of them are not the nicest people in the world either, and some of them are great people. They know that's what they're there to do. They'll help you no matter what. They don't care if you're part of their parish or part of their congregation or not. They're there to help, so they'll try to help you. Others see it differently, so you just got to find the right one. Just got to find the right person. So that's how
Yeah.
it works.
Keep trucking, keep reaching out. Somebody
Absolutely.
will be there to help. And like Jack said, if your church won't help you, find a paranormal group and make sure you...
If you're not...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, make sure you look at their qualifications, so on and so forth, because there are a lot of teams out there that are just looking for the excitement and the fun of it, and there are others that are educating themselves and trying to help people and aren't there for the hunt. They're there to help. So make sure you're finding the good ones.
Right.
Weed 'em out.
And that's what I was going to say. If you don't, we do know. And if you don't know who to go to, come back to us and ask us. We can help you find somebody. Because I know a lot of teams out there throughout the entire United States. So nowadays, I know anyway. So I know some good ones. I know some who aren't that good but are still trying to learn, and I can help maybe point you to the right people. So so don't be afraid to come back to us and ask. Is really just what I'm getting at. So.
Yeah, and it can be difficult. And like you were saying earlier, and a lot of people have stated this as well, isn't using dowsing rods or paranormal puck or this and this and that the same as using a Ouija board? Well, I think dowsing rod's kind of the same because you're allowing an entity to, send triggers or whatnot through your body to affect the dowsing rods. As well as the little dowel you're using on the Ouija board. There's certain things that are the same when you are in paranormal investigation using these certain tools. It's somewhat the same as using a Ouija board. You just have to make sure you're educating yourself on it and you know how to close it and what to and what not to say.
Right. And, some of us learn the hard way. But I would say, honestly, any of it's the same. Because really what you're doing is you're opening up a session, you're opening up a portal, whether it's a K2 or not. A lot of people hold the K2 in their hand, and they're asking questions. Say, "Well, you're doing the same thing. You're letting your energy interact with that device, and then spirit energies are interacting with it too." But I always go back to this: what is your intent? What is your intent of using it? I mean, for most of us investigators, people like myself and our team anyway, our intent is to try to help those people. So we're just trying to find out what's going on. I'm not necessarily asking to talk to anything beyond what isn't in that home already or what isn't affecting that individual already. That's still risky because if you're talking to something that's negative or demonic, you're letting that energy interact with your own. But that's why it's important as an investigator, again, to go back to that spiritual protection and also have a good sense of being able to feel that kind of energy and what kind of energy is interacting with you. And that you don't have to be psychic to figure that out. It's just a matter of learning when something doesn't feel right. No different than walking into a bar and going, ooh, maybe I shouldn't stay here. Right? You get that, whoa, something bad's about to happen. Better go. That's all I'm talking about. That's the only type of thing. You pick up on that energy, though. Or you walk in and go, wow, this is a hopping place. We're going to have a fun time tonight, You pick up on the energy, and that's all I'm really talking about. Feel that energy. Let that energy kind of flow and sense what's coming back from it. So, because I still use dowsing rods. I mean, I use dowsing rods for different cases. And, you're letting that energy flow kind of through you. I don't let it necessarily...
Tool. That was my first tool and my favorite tool. I love it.
Yeah, it is a great tool. I was taught how to use them. I never put much stock into them until some good friends of mine on San Diego Ghost Hunters taught me how to use them, who had used them for years and years and years. And I was like, wow, this actually is really working because I'm not doing anything, but I'm getting responses to questions. And, even questions that they were asking. It's like, I'm not doing nothing. Think, wow, this really works. Right. And you can feel that energy flowing through you. You can feel the energy flowing through you. Now, for different things, it's very subjective, but when you're just trying to figure out what's going on to help an individual, they're very useful. And they can give you some good answers, and you can get some good insights into what's haunting a person or what's affecting a person. So they're very useful for those types of things.
Well, I hate to cut you off, but we do have to go to our first break. And our breaks are musical breaks. We have Michaelan Hay. We have Quest Band, as well as Fred Johnson for our musical break. So to our listeners, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Sending my love to you in verse 2 with a kiss and a beat that you and I can step to. Come on. God created the heavens and the earth. What he said is very best for the day of your birth. No longer is it just me, myself, and I, but since you have arrived, you're the apple of my eye, girl. Open your heart and let me come inside. All this love is forever for the ride. And when that DJ played our favorite song, we dance the night away until we're heading home where we're holding you. loving, I'm kissing, I'm feeling.
The perfect day, yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say. Face because she had the range. I knew she was the one that never could go home again. Plastic life like limo seats. I don't know why I can't control this urge to hurt again. Yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. Forever after. No matter what I say after dark. Feeling ran to repugnant me. In hiding place with days of December. Concerning works it doesn't matter what I say. It really doesn't. No matter what I say after dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, it's in the sky, murder forever after. It doesn't matter what I say. Rude and fatal, lacking the hint of conscience. No matter what I say, after dark.
Thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Tonight we are joined by Jack Kenna. Jack, welcome back. It's so great to have you on this evening.
Thank you, Tessa, for having me. It's awesome to be here. It's a great show, as always. I always love the shows. I always love doing the shows. I used to have a show for a short period of time. It got to be too much for me, though. It's a lot to do. It's a lot to. It is, and that was my problem. I didn't have a lot of time. Too many other things going on, too much else going on between all the events, and we're trying to write, and because I love writing, so I'm working on another book and stuff too. So,
yeah, and it's important to write those books so people can read it, and you don't have to repeat yourself. And
I still have to repeat myself. It doesn't matter,
right? You're like, here, just read this.
Just read this. Just read it. Okay.
So when was your first paranormal experience, or what got you interested in the field of the paranormal?
As a kid, I don't know, I was always interested. I had experiences growing up in my own home, which I would just always hear my name being called, very clear. It was my nickname. My mother called me Jay. My father was Jack at the time, and I kind of took his nickname when I got into doing all the paranormal stuff, kind of as a just a way of remembering my dad. That's all. But I always heard my name being called by what sounded like my mother growing up, but it was never my mother calling me. It was years later I found out from a psychic friend of mine that it was my grandmother, my mother's mother, that was always calling me. And she still does it to this day. Occasionally I'll hear my name in the morning when I'm not getting up to go to work, and it's like, I'm staying home today, Grandma. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And then it goes away. So,
Get up, get out of bed, Jack.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that
You
was
got
it,
work
pretty
to
much.
do.
Got stuff to do. So I always heard that when I was a kid, and I'd go to my mother and I'd say, "What do you want?" She'd go, "I'm not calling you. What are you talking about?" You know, I'm like, "No, you called me. I heard you." So, and she had a lot of experiences growing up. She used to tell me about all her experiences, so that's kind of, I guess, my mother got me into it. But there was actually something happened to me at age 17, and I can't talk too much about it because it's going to be on a new show called My Paranormal Nightmare, and they took a bunch of us from different shows and like Haunted Case Files, stuff like that, and said, we want to tell your origin stories. So with my origin story, what happened to me, it terrified me so much I got out of the paranormal at age 17, and I just avoided it. With the exception of probably watching TV shows, I remember still watching TV shows like In Search of things, Demon House. And I watched that for the first time, and I saw, they showed the image of the demon he said he saw in his dream. That was the exact thing I saw, to the T. And I'm like, oh, shit. It scared the hell out of me watching that show because I suddenly realized and remembered what had happened. And it was only a couple weeks later they said, why don't you tell your origin story? I'm like, oh, what are the chances?
Like, do I have to?
Well, when I was telling it, we were filming it, I kind of had a hard time telling it, and they're all listening, they're like, and it made them cry because thinking about this was a kid at the time and what he was going through, and I actually made them all cry. It's like, that's horrible. I can't believe that happened to you. I'm like, oh yeah, it did happen to me. So it's kind of, in a way, I laughed about it. It's just like, wow, you guys really all got, wow, okay, all right, interesting, all right. They're like, wow, left them all speechless.
I watched that show, but I'm trying to remember what that looked like.
There's another one that hasn't come out yet. Paranormal Nightmare has not come out yet. There was My Worst Nightmare that came out. It's been in Canada. And then there's something similar to it, but it's not our show. Our show hasn't aired yet. And I know that because I just talked to the producer this past week and was asking him, hey, when's that going to air? He goes, we haven't aired it yet. We're just about done. It should be airing, he said, later this year up in Canada. It'll air in Canada first, and then it'll air down here. So it's got to be something there is another one out there. It's got a similar name. I don't remember which one that is, though. But yeah, no, you haven't seen it yet because it hasn't been out yet. I don't know the one that is. I haven't watched that other one I think you're talking about. What's it called? Like my it's not Paranormal Nightmare. It's something like that, though. It probably is. Yeah, My Worst Paranormal Nightmare.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many. I have so many. Actually, when ours comes out, it might not even be called My Paranormal Nightmare. It might end up being called something else. You never know until they air it, because it changes. They change names so many times. It gets ridiculous. So even Haunted Case Files was supposed to be called, and it is called something else over in the UK. It's called like Paranormal Researchers or something to that effect. It's not Haunted Case Files.
I watched that. It was hard for me to get into it.
Haunted Case Files, yeah. It's been a little bit different because it is just focuses on the investigators and their cases, and some people say, well, I don't believe any of that, and I think they're all, a lot of them are made up, but they're really not. I mean, I know all the people. A lot of them are friends of mine and stuff like that, and I know their cases and I know the stuff. So I never heard anything too negative about my own, but It just depends. Some people like them, some people don't. Some people are more into watching the ones like the Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, where they follow you around and stuff like that. Everybody likes something different, but there's enough out there. God, there's enough out there. Reason I liked doing the shows was not because of just being on TV and your face gets out there, but what it allowed me to do was to reach out to more people who might need help. And I tried to always talk in a way that people felt I was telling them the truth, and I always told the truth. I even had arguments with producers sometimes over what they wanted said over what I was willing to say.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not saying what you want me to say. It's not right. It's not what happened, and I'm not doing it. So you just got to put your foot down. And I always tell that to people who are doing those shows. Put your foot down, because you know what? They need you. You don't need them. They need you to make the show. So if they need you, they can do it the right way, and tell the truth, and you don't need to embellish these stories mostly anyway,
Really?
They do their reenactment.
Yeah, they're scary enough. You don't really have to embellish on them. Like, had you been there, you would realize that.
Yeah, and I hate to use the word scary. I say they're compelling enough, because when you watch them, it's like, oh, And matter of fact, with Haunted Case Files, I do know one of the cases they got some of the best feedback for did happen to be one of mine, and it had nothing to do with what was scary. It had to do with the story of a spirit. Her name was Hannah, and what happened to her and how she approached us to tell her story about she had been raped. She had a baby. She was raped by a family member. The baby got taken away and just kind of erased from history. And we actually did find in one of the family Bibles information on that child. So, and it was a mention of when she was born, all that, and then nothing else. And every other child in the thing, there's always a mention of when they were born, when they died, how old they were, everything else. But this one named Mary, nothing. It's like they tried to just erase her from history, which would make sense, and you're talking something that happened back in the 1700s. It's nothing that happened recently. So yeah, but she told her story, and she actually came through while I was telling her story. Came through me while I was telling her story, because I suddenly realized I'm not talking anymore. Somebody else is talking through me at this point, and it actually stunned that's another one that stunned the crew. They're like, and I'm like, wow. Because I started crying and everything else too after, and they're like, is everything all right? And I told them what happened. They're like, yeah, it didn't seem like it was really you talking anymore. I'm like, it wasn't. She just channeled through and told her story. So it was very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was. And it was one of the more ones that people watched and went, wow, that was an amazing story. It had nothing to do with being scary. Really. It just had to do with that spirit, us reaching out to do an event, or not event, but investigate a historical location, and this spirit came through, and she was able to tell her story, and we promised her we'd try to get her story out, because this historical place didn't want us talking about it, and her chance came, and she told her story herself, I think, in the end. So, which is good. She got her word out, and hopefully she's at rest now. So, and that's what kind of came out of that. So,
well, it's really weird when you are in that situation where something is speaking through you and it's not you. And did you have recollection of that coming through? Were you able to witness it, or did you not?
I knew what was happening at the moment, because, it happened so fast. Here's what happened. She asked, we were talking about leading up to the girls, being raped by a family, and she goes, and we were hesitant. I was hesitant about saying too much about it. And she goes, well, Mr. Gunn, what do you, producer, director, goes, well, what do you really think happened? And then it just spilled out, and I said, what do I think happened? What do I think happened? What do I know happened? And and I'm like, I'm saying words, and I'm like, I'm not even talking this. My mind is like, I'm not even talking here. Just somebody else is talking. And it happened fast, and it went quick, and it was done. And it's like, whew, and I started to break down. I was crying, and they're like stunned, and a couple of them are crying, and it's like, I don't know where that just came from. That was not me. I think it was her, because I think all her emotions came through, and I had no reason to be, it wasn't about me, right? It wasn't about, what happened to me or anything. So you can become very emotional, and you realize you're not really speaking. It's not your thoughts. Somebody else is speaking their own thoughts, But it happened so fast. It's like, wow, what just happened? You're talking, it took less than a minute for it to take place. So, you don't have time to really think about it. It's there, it's done. I think she was almost waiting for that opportunity. She jumped in, did what she had to do, and got out. And that was it. And it's like, strange. It's very strange because it's not your thoughts.
Right.
You can't explain it. It's hard to explain to somebody. They're just using you to tell their own thoughts or their own story.
Yeah, it's what a lot of people refer to as a walk-in, where somebody will walk in and communicate.
Yeah. And I had promised her when we left to the location, probably less than a year earlier, that I somehow would find a way to tell her story for her. I said, some way, somewhere, I'll find a way to tell your story for you. And I think it was about a year later that we had the opportunity, and she may have been hanging around until then, saying, "Okay, Mr. Kenna, you promise you're going to tell my story some way. When's this going to happen?" She may have been waiting the whole time. I don't know. I really don't know. I never felt I had an attachment or anything, but we don't know how spirit works. She may have been waiting and watching, saying, "Okay, when's my opportunity coming?" She took it when it did.
Well,
and you know what? That was
okay. She was able to get that across, because that may be why she was stuck there, because she wasn't able to tell her story, and finally she is. Hopefully she's free to do whatever she needs at this point.
I would feel after that she kind of moved on, because she not only just told, one or two people or a few people, she basically told anybody who watches that show what happened to her, right? Which is thousands of people anyway, right? I mean, we know lots of people watch these shows. Mm-hmm. So, she got it out to a lot of people, and the location was talked about, the actual location. So, it's out there, her story's told, she got it off her chest, So, I think I always felt after that she was probably at rest now. She said what she wanted to say. People found out about her daughter, and I think that was what was most important to her. That she had a daughter, that she wasn't allowed to talk about, and now she can. Now she has talked about it. So for her, I think that was closure. And I got no problem with what she did. I had promised her, and we gave her that opportunity, and she took it. So it's okay.
That's awesome.
Well, it's interesting in that, usually the people we help are living, right? That was one individual we helped who was already deceased, right? So sometimes spirit needs your help too,
yeah, and that's what we're here for, is to help people on both sides, like living and deceased.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true. I always say sometimes when I'm working on cases where somebody did pick up an attachment because they did something they shouldn't have done or whatever, and I wrote an article about this one time. It's like, well, who should I really feel sorry for? Should I feel sorry for the person who ended up with the attachment because they thought this would be just fun to do and go out and instigate like they see on TV and they ended up with an attachment? Or should I feel sorry for the spirit who was desperate to find somebody to help them and latched on and looking for help? Who should I really feel sorry for here? Who should I try to help? In the end, both is the answer.
Right.
But, if I feel sorry for the person who went out looking for trouble, or do I feel sorry for this spirit who is desperate to help and they latched on because out of desperation? Because they were asked to. Come home with me. Go ahead. Okay.
Right.
You asked for it. You got it. Help me. I can't get rid of this. Yeah, well, you did ask for it, Yeah, let's see what we can do. So, it's things like that we don't normally think about. I like to throw those ideas out to people and say, well, think about that, Am I just trying to toss out a spirit who is desperate for help, or to get rid of an attachment for somebody, or the other way around, Am I trying to help the spirit to get rid of the human attachment? I don't know. Maybe they don't like being stuck to that person. I don't know.
Right, and one of the cardinal rules is you never invite anything to come home with you.
No, but people do all the time. It happens a lot, it does happen.
A lot of times it's innocent, my kids, right after I got my dowsing rods, hey, Mom, we had just finished breakfast. Can we use the dowsing rods? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, it'll be cool. Just teach us how to use it. And so we did. And it led us to a pool at a hotel. And it had this fence around it, like a tall security fence with a locked gate. Right. And there was a little boy there named Billy. Supposedly his little sister had fallen in the pool. He jumped in to save her, but he didn't know how to swim, so he ended up drowning as well. Well, my nephew, Davy Joe, said, hey, you want to come with us? And that's when I was like, hey, Joe, no. You never invite anything to come with you, because this could be a little boy named Billy and his little sister, or it could be something else. You never know, so you never invite anything with you. You always say, nothing can follow me home, nothing can attach to me, so on and so forth when you're ending a session. So that just kind of takes you back to laws and rules.
That's right, yeah, because kids don't know. And how do you know, let's leave these kids over to the pool where we drowned, and well, maybe it wasn't another kid, maybe it was something else trying to lure the kids in to drown to them. You don't know, Let's do this. Come on in, let's go swimming. Yeah, it'll be fine. No,
right?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. No. Come home with us. No, don't come home with us. No, it's okay. Because you don't know. You don't know what you're talking to or dealing with, and that's the problems. You just don't know until it takes time to figure that out. And a lot of times things aren't what you think they are. And people always say, well, demonic cases are this and that. They tell you the truth about demonic cases. They're very quiet. Initially, they're extremely quiet. They don't want you to know they're there. They don't want you to try to give help to these people. They want to pretend that nothing's wrong, and they want you to think these people are just have psychological problems. And it doesn't until you start to get really into it and you start to try to connect with what's there and you start calling it out for what it is. That's when you start finding out what's really there. But I do know this. I've taken on this. They always have a giveaway for me. It's always when I'm driving to a location, my GPS tries to reroute me to go home.
Uh-oh.
Oh, every time I got a case like that. It's only during those kind of cases. Any other cases, I don't have the problem. It's just, and my other GPS works fine all the time. But when I have a case that's demonic, from the minute I leave the house, within a mile after leaving the house, it keeps wanting me to make a U-turn. Make a U-turn. I have to shut it off and reset it. It doesn't want me going. And then I'll usually still have trouble finding the location.
Yeah, initially. You're like, damn it, Robo-Bitch, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. They keep trying to reroute you all these different ways. It's like, oh, God.
Take a left here. It's a cornfield. You're like, hell no.
Yeah. Take a left down this dirt road that goes nowhere. Okay. No, I know I shouldn't go that way. Okay. Well, I even had it one time. It was trying to reroute me, but I had been this place several times, right? It was like the third time I was going up to this house. So I really didn't need it on. I just turned it on just so I know roughly what my arrival time frame is. It changed the date and time. It just changed the date and time on
That's
the
insane.
on the whole phone, actually, because I use my phone, right? Changed the whole date and time to a different day, a day before, and like a totally different. It's like 7 p.m. It's like it's 3 in the afternoon. Who are you really kidding?
Like, what the crack?
Like, oh, it's the 7th. No, today is the 8th. I know what day it is.
You're like,
no,
did
it's
I
the 7th.
teleport to the west?
Yeah, it's the day before at 7 p.m. No, it's not. It's the day of at 3 in the afternoon. I know where I am. Okay. It did though. It wouldn't. I tried to switch it and it wouldn't switch it back. I finally just shut it off. I said, screw it. I just shut it off. I said,
Right.
forget it. I already know where I'm going. I really don't need it. Forget it. Just shut it off. And then I was there. When I was there, it did the same thing to the client's phone, and it changed the date and time on hers too. And then there was a call from her aunt who almost never calls, and the aunt was like, "I didn't call you." And while she's on the call, you hear this male voice speaking through it, say, "Go home, go home." Yeah. No BS. That actually happened. And she's like, "Who's that? Who's that on the other?" And they're trying to talk to each other, like, "Who's it?" It was you hear it loud and clear. His male voice came through. "Go home. Go home." Like, holy shit, he called.
Like, that's not even the right voice. What's going on here?
No, it wasn't. It was. This is my aunt. She was trying to talk to her aunt. Her aunt couldn't. It's like weird. And finally she hung up and called her aunt back. She goes, "No, if my phone rang on my end. You called me." It's like, "No, I didn't call you. You called me." It's like weird.
Oh my goodness.
Oh boy.
Yeah. AI really freaks me out, and
Yeah.
I don't use Siri. I don't use Alexa. I don't use any of those things.
I don't.
I use Google Maps. And then I went
That's what
down to Phoenix, where my sister and mom are, and my sister's like, "Hey, let's try this AI challenge and ask her all these questions." And I was like, "No, I don't want to." And she's like, "I don't have it on my phone, so we got to use your phone." And we tried it. And, she was standing her ground and everything, but not too long after that, I was about to go on a paranormal investigation, and she came on, and she said, "Did you summon me?" And I was like, what the crack? Like, I did not even open this. And she's saying, "Did you summon me?" Like, she didn't say, "Did you ask for me?" "Did you summon me?" Like,
Summon me, yeah. No, I didn't. Shut up.
yeah, go away.
Go away.
Crank call, crank call.
Yeah, I did not ask you to be here. Go away. No, I did not summon you. Yeah, crazy stuff can happen. That's why. Yeah, I just use Google Maps and stuff like that. I don't get into the Alexas and all that stuff either. I'm too old school. I'll leave that for the new people. Too much often Big Brother's listening. I think I'm one of those people. I guess.
Right?
Big Brother's listening. Yeah, okay. Conspiracy
I am
theory.
paranoid, and they are following me.
Absolutely. I work for him. God, I know.
Yeah, once you've been, property of the government, you know what's really going on.
Yeah. No, they the problem is they may be watching, but they're so inept that they don't know what they're doing anyway.
They're just getting
They're almost
fragments.
harmless. They're only harmless to each other higher up. That's all they're harmful to. The political realm, it's like they're harmful to each other there. The rest of us, they don't know what the hell's going on. Hell, they didn't even know that the Chinese hacked us until much later, so what the hell?
Yeah, the Russians got blamed for all of it.
Yeah, the Russians got blamed for all of it. It was the Chinese that hacked us. I was one of those people. It was almost the whole federal government that hacked into the civilian employee network and the military, for all our information and stuff. I was one of those people. I got the notice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like great. Chinese have all my information. I said, good thing my credit's not that good. They won't want to be bothered.
Right?
Oh, he is. Never mind. Don't bother with him. He's useless. It's funny.
Our word on Periscope said, "Alexa reminds me to do the truffle shuffle at 4 a.m. is my favorite."
I get enough people telling me what to do. I don't need an electronic device telling me what to do. I get enough of that. I don't even use an alarm. I just, like, in my head say, I got to get up at this time.
I
Thank
hate
you.
the internal clock. It wakes me up too much.
I love it. I've got it down pretty pat, but I can ignore it when I want to and go, never mind. I'm going to sleep a little longer. So that's the danger sometimes. I can ignore the internal clock. So, but yeah, there's a lot of electronic stuff out there. I do use, people ask me about apps and stuff like that. I do use them for investigating. I'm the type of person, I believe you can use anything. Anything can be used to contact spirit. I can use a feather. It's subjective,
Right.
but I can say, raise the feather straight up in the air, and maybe it'll go straight up. Doesn't mean it wasn't a breeze that got underneath it and raised it, but if it happens 3 times in a row every time I ask, maybe it is something else, right?
Right.
So, but I've been using the Ghost Radar app for many years now, and I just collected data with it for 5 years. Didn't report on it, didn't do anything. I just collected it and compared it to what was coming out at the same time. I maybe captured EVPs or somebody had a personal experience, things like that. And it actually there was correlation there. So I'm like, wow, that's very interesting. And some words that came through correlated to the history of the location. And I was like, wow, okay, that makes sense. So, you take everything with a grain of salt, but I like using some of these apps because they can help you ask better questions at the time. If you seem to be getting repeated responses to different things, it can help you follow a better train of thought in what you're trying to do, right? So that's really why I like to use them. Take it with a grain of salt. Collect the information. Don't assume it's a spirit, but if you do seem to be getting responses, like consistent responses, then keep following that train of thought that you're been going down. You know what I'm saying? Don't get off topic. Like if they like talking about the railroad, don't suddenly say, "Well, what's your favorite cereal?" It's about the railroad, okay? Because there's something about the railroad that they like, right? Don't change the subject. Like what? That's weird.
Yeah, now I'm floating off into oblivion.
Yeah. I like orange juice. You were just talking about cereal, then the railroad. Oh, never mind. I'm going to leave this person alone. Never mind.
I like turtles.
Yeah. So that's how I like to use these tools. I like to call them tools.
Well, any tool
I do
that
get
you...
I do get hit up a lot for it.
Yeah.
People say, it says on it's entertainment purposes only. I said, so does the Ovilus. Read the website.
Yeah, everything you order as far as a paranormal tool comes with a little paper that says for experimental purposes only or entertainment purposes only. Same thing. Because everything is like that.
Because nobody can tell you that. Nobody can tell you that can contact a spirit.
Right.
Nobody can tell you that because they don't know.
How do you prove it?
Yeah, you can't. So it's all lawyer shit. It's like, I can't say it actually communicates with spirits, so I got to put this little disclaimer on it. That's all it is. It's a legal disclaimer. That's all it is. Doesn't mean it doesn't. You've got to test it. You've got to experiment with it, which is why I like to do things like that.
Yeah, collect data.
And I even experimented with the Ovilus. I mean, I didn't just take it that, okay, this thing is talking to spirit. I messed with that for a while too, and it's like, okay, I do like it. I think it's got some valid, uses and stuff.
I think Ghost Radar and Ovilus is basically the same thing, except for Ghost Radar. I like the... Go.
Yep. The algorithm that's imprinted into both of them is very similar.
Yeah.
I talked to the creator of the Ghost Radar, and we got talking about that. I said, "What is it really running on, or what are you really doing with it?" I told him about being in engineering and stuff. He goes, "Well," he explained it to me a little bit, and he goes, "It's a similar algorithm to what the Ovilus is using. I have some other things, obviously, that other parts of the program that he built into it." He goes, "But realistically," he goes, "it should sit there and do nothing. You should have no words come through. You should have no different blips on the radar device. It should do nothing." He goes, "But it does at times." And people think, well, it's built into it. No, it should do nothing.
I've heard people say it's listening to what you're saying. Well, we weren't saying anything. We weren't even in there.
maybe it is listening to what you're saying, but is it the device that's listening, or is it the spirit that's listening? And how does it know what you want for an answer?
I was telling your partner Carly on break about my Ghost Radar experience, and it was my most favorite case ever. It was early in the morning, which is against my belief system, and so we go for preliminary at the Durango and Silverton Railroad Station. We are there at like 8 o'clock in the freaking morning. It's so early. I should still be sleeping. And we set up all our equipment in the boxcar where her fiance was killed. And then we set up throughout the museum. When we get back, I go back to my Ghost Radar, and I like the Legacy instead of the Classic because it records the words for you, and a lot of times the words won't come through, so every word that comes through that doesn't even show up on the radar will be recorded for you to look at later.
That's right.
And she said Kate Johnson, Walter Intention Death, Sharp Tool, and so on and so forth. There were so many words after that. We gave it to the museum curator after our investigation. Yeah. He studied it, and he said she was a prostitute from Alamosa. She fell in love with a firefighter. They became engaged. He was sneaking her onto the train to elope. They were found together by the brakeman who had been with her because she was a working girl. He got really jealous and stabbed her fiance to death. She was raised Catholic. She tried to move on with her life, but she felt like had she not been there, this would have never happened. Her madam took really good care of her, sent her to California, but she ended up, of all things, ingesting muriatic acid. So, believing as a Catholic, she thought she'd be stuck in purgatory, which was the boxcar where her fiancé was killed. That's where the beginning of her demise came from. And
gotcha.
She was there for the longest time. Like when we first went up there, like going up the stairs, you get nauseous, you go in, you feel claustrophobic, different feelings throughout the train car. And the museum curator told a Catholic school class, of all things, the story. He wasn't going to tell them the whole story, but he did because he felt compelled to. And so they go in there and they say this prayer of release from purgatory. He had walked off the car at that point, and he thought they were following him because the way it goes back and forth when you walk down it. But as he got to the bottom of the stairs, he heard them saying this prayer, and he said he was born Catholic, but he had never heard this prayer, and it was like the most beautiful prayer he had ever heard. And he asked them as they came off, what was that you guys were saying? And they said it was a prayer of release from purgatory. Well, I came in about a week after that, and he's like, hey, I think Kate's gone. Can you go in and see if she's there? And I walked up the stairs, no feeling. Went onto the car, no feeling. Emmy was there, but Kate wasn't. Emmy's the little girl ghost, and I'll send you guys those pictures later. But she's gone for about 3 months, but due to free agency or free will, she was able to come back to protect Emmy, who was being attacked by the brakeman, who's there as well. I have pictures of all three of those guys. But that was my favorite case because we were actually able to find her name and free her from this earthbound hell, or what they call purgatory.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing. I mean, because, and it's a little device like that helped you figure it out, right? So
yeah, and otherwise, on other cases, it's been words here and there, and nothing really makes sense. Yeah. But for that one, it really helped and worked. Had we not had it, who knows what would have happened?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily work for every single case either, but some cases it'll work on. I always remind people, when you're using that app or any of the other apps, make sure your phone is in airplane mode. Leave the app running for about 10 minutes before you start really trying to interact with it. Wait till it goes quiet, because it's running. Initially turn those on, they're running through their algorithm to set it up, right? Or it's whatever you want to say, organizing itself. And then you'll see it go quiet. And once it does that, that's when you can start trying to interact with it, whatever might be there, and tell them how to interact with it. Tell them how they can use it. Describe to them what it is and how it can be interacted with, to the best of your knowledge, anyway. And that's when I find you'll start getting some interaction sometimes, Or even just sitting around, you're talking, when you seem to be getting nothing, you just start talking about different things. All of a sudden you start getting activity on it, like they're joining in the conversation. So, that works too a lot. So,
I've tried not to do different things at my house because it's been so active.
Don't investigate your own home. No. Don't
yeah. I know.
I tell people that all the time. Do not investigate your own home. You go, why not? If I have you come in and do it, I'm coming in to help you. I don't know why you're doing it. I don't live there. I'm coming in to help you because you've asked me. And I don't know why you're doing it, but because I want to see what's in my home. No, bad idea. There's probably nothing in your home. Now you just brought something in. Because that could happen. That could happen. We don't know where spirit comes from. There may be nothing in your home. Now you just invited something to come in. There you go. Good job. Right? That's why you're calling
Way
me.
to go.
Right? Way to go. That's why you're calling me. Yeah, that's why I always remind people. It's all about intent. What is your intent of doing that? Well, I just wanted to see what's here. No, bad idea. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Leave it alone. Because I always say, well, did you ever have activity in your home? No. But aren't ghosts everywhere? Well, you just brought one into your home. Yeah.
Right.
Now you've got a haunting. Good guy. Good job. Yeah, I'll help you with it.
Our house, when we moved in, started off with a ghost, and he was really quiet at first. But then the very first time I remember him being here, I was getting ready for work, and nobody else was here. Like, my husband was at work, and the kids were at school, so on and so forth. And I got ready to go to the casino to bartend, and I'm walking past my window, and all of a sudden, I hear this man in my bedroom coughing. And I freaked out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not here. I'm going to work right now, and I don't have to deal with this. I didn't know if somebody had broken in and was hiding on the other side of my bed or what. But his name is John. They used to call him Jack, and he died from emphysema, and he's the coolest guy ever. Like, he can stay here as long as he wants. He has scared the kids a couple times innocently, but other things tend to come in, and I think it's because they know that not only I, but my kids are gifted, and they can come in and get whatever they need out to move on to whatever else they need to do. So we have good ones coming in, but we also have some bad ones that get stuck in here, and it's quite the handful. Yeah.
So where did this Jack guy, you think, come from?
He used to live here. Yeah, he used to live here, and he died from emphysema in my bedroom. But, yeah. He's a really nice old guy. And my neighbor Lisa, she's lived down the drive forever, and she's the one who told me after I told her the story. She's like, oh, that's just John. He's a cool guy, and blah, 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 and told me all about him. And I'm like, cool, as long as he's not upsetting the household, he can stay. I'm perfectly fine with that, whatever he needs to do.
Right. No, it was just weird because, my father's name was John. Everybody called him Jack, and he died of emphysema.
Oh, wow. My dad's name was John,
But he never lived out your way, so... Yeah, but he never lived out your way, so it's not him. So it's kind of weird. Strange. Yeah, because my given name is John, too. And I told you, I took my father's nickname of Jack just kind of in honor of him when I started getting into all the paranormal stuff and stuff. So, and then interestingly enough, I have COPD myself. I have emphysema myself. So, and I never smoked a day in my life, though.
Really?
So, well, mine's not terrible, but I have problems on like really hot, humid days, and then the really cold days. I have trouble, catching my breath and stuff like that.
So the household where you lived, did they ever use Agent Orange or anything like that in the fields or whatnot?
No.
Because that's how my granny got her lung stuff, and she never smoked either.
No, I got it from, I pretty much know where it came from. I mean, my father always smoked and stuff like that. He smoked cigars when I was a kid and stuff. But I also hung around growing up. My father died young. He was my age when he passed. He was 56. So my mother always had me connect up with these other guys like 10, 20 years older than me. Take me hunting, fishing, all that stuff. Just neighborhood people. And but they all smoked, so I was around them my whole life. even though I never smoked. I was always
Well,
in the
back
cars
in the
with
day,
him. Going here, go there. No, nobody thought
parents
about it.
and
I don't
friends
blame
and everybody
anybody.
smoked in the car, smoked in the
Yeah,
house, smoked
yeah,
wherever.
absolutely. Yeah,
Their
nobody thought
parents
about
did
it
it
back
too,
then.
and their parents before them did
That's
it.
right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So nobody ever thought about it. And don't get me wrong, I don't blame anybody for that, but I'm pretty sure that's where I picked it up from, was all that. Because I always had upper respiratory issues and stuff like that all my life. And they doctor's pretty sure, well, your lungs probably never totally developed correctly because of being around your father who smoked and all that all his life. And, you're an infant growing up and all that. So, so then I had other problems. So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I'm doing okay, though. Yeah, we're all right. Heart's all good. Everything else is good. But, yeah, stuff happens. Life is the way it is.
Right.
But that was just interesting that his name was John, and they called him Jack, and he had emphysema.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us. Oh, there's a lot of us around.
Circles.
So, yeah, circles. That's it. Circles. So, hey, I'm watching our time here, and I'm going to have to jump off.
6 minutes before we have to leave.
6 minutes.
So, yeah,
right.
Did you want to tell our listeners about your books, places they can find you, what shows you've been on, so on and so forth?
Yeah. Best place you can find me is either on Facebook. Just look up Jack Kenna. I think it's actually Jack NY45 if you looked it up. Or you can find me on my website, which is just jackkenna.org, and then our Spirits of New England website, which is spiritsofnewengland.org. You can find me there. Books that are out, you can find them all on Amazon. It's Hauntings, Ghosts, and Demons is one of them, and then Paranormal Research is another, and then the graphic novel I have out, which is Spirits of Forgotten Souls of Bay Path. But if you just type in my name on there, Jack Kenna, my books will all come up on there. And we got a bunch of events coming up. Again, just go to jackkenna.org, and you can look up all the events we got coming up and everything that's going on there. And then I am going to turn you over to my good friend and partner, Carly Hall, and she can help you out for the next part of your show. Very interesting individual herself. She was on Paranormal Survivor this year, telling her story, and you guys can talk about all that. And she's an amazing young lady, so I think you'll find a very interesting to talk to.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for being my guest tonight and joining us on Late Night in the Rockies. And it was so great to hang out with you and kind of pick your brain on things. And there's so many other things I'd like to ask you, but I know you have to go educate the world about the paranormal tomorrow.
Unfortunately, I do, but I'd come back anytime you like. But I do have to work on some things tonight, for us tonight. But I do have a fill-in for you, as I get an extra person you can talk to, so who's probably more interesting than even me to talk to be honest with you. So we'll go from there. And it's a pleasure. And thank you. It's an honor for being on your show.
Well, thank you so much again. And I'm just going to go to break right now. And then when we come back, we'll have Carly Hall. Is that correct? Carly Hall?
Carly Hall.
Yay! I'm excited. I love her energy. And thank you so much again, and good luck on your class tomorrow.
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you. Yes. It's been going great, so everybody's looking forward to it. It's hopefully we'll take it further.
Yeah, I think I can see it going a long ways. I think you've paved the way for future paranormal investigators and such to, and I'm not going to say experts because there's no experts, but pave the way for others to learn.
Yeah, maybe we'll pave the way till someday there is an expert out there on it, right? Not today, but maybe someday. You'll have a degree in it or something. I don't know. It'd be nice. Small steps, little baby steps. Let's take baby steps first.
Baby steps.
We got it into a college. So it's a plus,
Well, thank you again, John, a.k.a. Jack, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Tessa. You too. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And for all of our listeners out there, we're going to go to Power Play, Electricity by Tracy Cruz, and Sugar by Fred Johnson. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this musical break. you. So we have about 11 minutes for Carly.
Lord, save me. Teach me the lessons of life, won't you raise me? Because I tried everything.
All right. Good night. I'll be back in just a few.
I need a hero. A real life Colorado to step in, receive me, and deliver a power play. Something to raise my head from the dust. It's a must. I find someone in whom I can trust. I must grow in knowledge. Live what I learn. I'm so glad to meet you. Yo, my name is Vern. Lead me any way that you're willing, and I'll share. I need your power play. Dreams to the front and all pass behind. Memories of things you did so absurd. Came to the curb, now burns the word. Cause often we're low now, problems can write us. But with power from God, yeah, we all stand victorious. Listen to the seed, the knowledge, and digest the real on me. Cause a trooper like Jay keeps it righteous. And express a prime example of a vocalist, adjust your bubble. Leroy D is like dangerous trouble. Trouble if you want it, peace if you with it. Never before known of a man who can stand it, but so irrelevant. So kick it in if you will, Lord. And I'll shield. I need your power play. Yeah. Here comes another one. Powerful in knowledge, and now you're not guessing. When power meets the darkness, the devil's got to go. That's my Weasel, and now he's going loco. If you got a problem, God can solve it. Power from the general, and you're in his outfit. Why must the fist stay dirty so filthy? Get off your rear and whitewash the pickings. Power for cleansing, power for sanitizing, power for us, power for the rising of the sun. Cause in your darkest hour, you can look up and express to feel the power up. I need your power play. Yeah. Comes another one.
microphone. I receive what you say to me.
Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing. Wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar. Why did I make you cry? Whispers flow through my mind when I think about you. That warm feeling in me. My heart sings a sad song and just melts away. Please look into my eyes, my sugar. There's life in out there. Until the sun doesn't shine anymore, I'll be there. When time is a memory, I'll know this love. You will always be the one, my sugar. The feeling is so strong. Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. Where did our love go wrong, my sugar?
Thank you so much for listening tonight. We had Jack Kenna. Now we have his partner, Carly Hall. Hey, Carly, welcome to the show. So great to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We were both jamming out to that last song. It's called Sugar from Fred Johnson III. So check him out. I love his music. He was on Last Break too.
Really, really good.
So how did you first get into the paranormal? Like, did you have a paranormal experience as a kid, or did it happen later on in life for you?
Yeah, I didn't. So I have been experiencing the paranormal ever since I have been a little kid. You know, even as a little kid, some of my closest friends were spirits. I was kind of like that kid that kind of hung out in their bedroom all the time and, you know, was kind of like an introvert. And then I got to the time where all of my paranormal experiences stopped being all positive, sadly, and by the time I got to be 13, I did end up with 2 demonic attachments that stayed with me for 8 years. It wasn't resolved until I was 21, and I just turned 23. So that was very recent that it was resolved. And we think, actually, pretty recently we figured out where it actually came from, and it's actually familial. Going down through my bloodline. So apparently a great-great-grandmother of mine was a Native American shaman, and she had been kind of like doing ceremonies for elementals to use as protection, since Native Americans are very, very close to the land. And she did live on a reservation. In fact, my mother was the last person in our family to ever live on a reservation. And so I guess what had happened was, it's like a long game of telephone. By the time it had gotten to me, the telephone game was so skewed that I ended up getting 2 demonic attachments. And that were seen as protection, but you know how they can be liars and stuff, and how they can appear as different things. So, pretty much I dealt with constant torture for a year and a half without any help. It had started out with a dream where I had seen them, and then just scratching on the walls, random noises trying to scare me. Then it turned into slamming doors, and then it turned into nightmares, and then it turned into scratching me and hitting me, waking up with scratches and bruises, and then it got so bad that when I was sleeping, sometimes they would send me to different places.
So like
it was very, very strange. Yes.
Astral attacks?
Astral projection. And I didn't have a choice. I couldn't control it. And so I called it was the same place every time, and I called it the hunting grounds. And what would happen there is, it was an old abandoned town, and there were some people there that I knew kind of belonged there, but I didn't know who they were. I felt different. I felt like I definitely didn't belong there, which was very true. And I ran around, and these things, I saw them in their true form. They were absolutely terrifying. I had no idea what they were, but they were literal monsters. And they would chase me and push me around and, scare the living daylights out of me. And I would have to find, the only time I would be able to get out of there is if they would let me, or if I found a portal out of there. And I was told, by my friends and stuff, because it would happen whenever I was at, a friend's house, or if I was home, it didn't matter. They wouldn't be able to wake me up, and my breathing would be very shallow. So they kind of freaked out one time over that, and I realized, oh, that's what happens, to my body when I'm there, which is very weird. But I would also wake up with any injuries that I got there, which was also equally as scary, because I would wake up with sprained ankles and scratches and scrapes, and my knees were dislocated one time. It was very terrifying. And so about a year and a half of that, I pretty much decided I had enough, and I decided to end it. And so about a week, I would say, before the date that I had chosen, I had this weird dream where it was a lucid dream. I couldn't control what was in it, but I knew that I was out of my body. I knew I was someplace. It was actually in my own house, which was interesting. And I walked through the house, and I looked, and there was this guy who I'd never seen before. And all he did was he just walked up to me and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, it's going to be okay. I'm like, dude, okay, whatever. And I wake up. And at that point, I'm thinking, yeah, whatever, that means nothing. This guy absolutely has no idea what he's talking about. There's no positivity in my life at all. I lost all of my friends. My parents turned out to be pretty abusive. I had nobody. I had no safe space wherever I went. And I couldn't escape these things. I saw them when I was sleeping and I saw them when I was awake. There was no relief from them. And the day came, and I was on my way to do it. And just before I got to the door, in my house where I was going to, and the door slammed in my face. And the same guy in my dream appeared next to me, and he turned out to be a spirit. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, what? He said, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? I said, this is none of your business. Just leave me alone. And I could physically see him. And he said, you're not going to want to do this. You're going to go to hell. And I said, I just was like, no, this is hell. This is absolutely horrible. There's no positive light at the end of the tunnel. Like, there's nothing that anybody can do. I had completely lost faith in my religion. I'm a devout Christian. I truly believed that God wanted me to suffer, and that was just how it was going to be, and I didn't want to do that. So how are you going to convince a 14-year-old that trying to convince them out of this, you have to be pretty, creative with it. And he kind of I don't know how he knew this, but he said, there's going to be tons of spiders if you do this in hell. Ooh. And I was like, oh, no. Yeah, I know. And it was very confusing, and he's like, spiders for the rest of eternity. It's just constant. I'm like, oh, fine, okay, fine. That's the one worst thing. That's the one thing that could make it worse. You win.
I feel you.
So he said, yes. So he said, just hold out for a little bit, and I want you to watch The Brothers Grimm. I don't know if you've seen that movie. It's like a very weird horror. Yeah, so there was a part
fairy tales
in it.
Originally were until they made them nicer.
Yes. That's terrifying. And so there was a part in the movie where these spiders came out of this human I watched it once and that was it, because that was enough for me. That was convincing enough for me. Where the spiders came out of the horse or something and then went into a human or vice versa. I don't know, but it was disturbing. And then I believed him. I was like, okay, fine. This is legit. Okay. And it actually took me a few months to actually believe that he could help me.
Right. You have to get that trust,
Yeah. And once I did actually start to believe that he could help me, the activity started to die down. And he was with me literally up my butt for 7 years after that, until I was 21 when I met Jack. And he taught me how to hone my psychic abilities. That was the first thing, was how to control my psychic abilities, because at that point, being a female teenager with your hormones raging and strong psychic abilities, you know how that can get. So I was like blowing light bulbs and popping balloons and all the fun stuff. So once we got that sorted, he taught me how to control my dreams so I could create a safe space when I was sleeping, how to wake myself up from nightmares, which is very, very handy. Then he taught me how to do Reiki, which is very interesting, because I had no idea it was really Reiki until I met Jack, which I just thought it was kind of just energy control for protection means for me, which is so cool because I can use it to help clients, and that makes me very happy. But once I did that, then he taught me how to find portals, which was very common to those dreams that I had with the hunting grounds, because I used those skill sets to find the portals because I was still going there. That was the only place that he couldn't be able to help me. And so it was much easier to find portals there and throughout the house. So then he taught me how to close them. And then he taught me how to create my bedroom as a safe space, which was very interesting because I used all aspects of all religions as long as it was positive. Like, I had crosses on my bed, I had runes all throughout my room, I had like all the, like for feng shui, there's like different animals that you assign to each corner of the room, and there's like a grid pattern. It's so like intricate, and it's super cool, but I had everything in there. As long as it was positive, I had everything. I even had what they call a runic rainbow doorway along the doorway of my bedroom. That was, what would happen is it was only allow good to stay in there and keep the bad out. And it was so strong that my parents actually couldn't open the door, the actual physical door. I would have to open it for them. It was so strange, but it was super cool because it worked. That was my safe space, and that was where I hung out a good majority of my days. And I was very introverted, didn't have many friends. And then, 7 years later, I met Jack at Ocean State Paracon, and this is the first time that I had ever come across people who actually accepted the paranormal as normal. I had never talked about this to anyone. I tried talking to my parents about it. They told me I was crazy and certifiable, and no one would help me.
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah.
Like, that is so hard when they don't believe you. It makes you feel like you're crazy, but you're like, I know this happened.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like stuff where like I would walk out of my bedroom and the door to the attic would be right there on the ceiling with the drop down stairs, and it would be open, and I'm like, and I could hear people moving around in the attic, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'd go downstairs, I'd see my mom, and it'd be like, hey, who's in the attic? And she's like, no one's in the attic. I don't know what you're talking about. And I go, the stairs are down. And I go upstairs, and the stairs were up, and no noise was coming from the attic. And it was those small things that would drive you crazy, too, when you think you had a break, and she'd just look at me and be like, something's wrong with you. Like, you're not okay. So it was very, very hard not having your parents understand. And actually, my dad didn't understand until he passed away. Because after he had passed away, all I had gotten, thankfully I was still able to communicate with him, was, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And even when I would go to like gallery readings at events, the people would be coming up to me going, your dad is constantly saying like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I know, I get it. Because he feels bad because I tried to tell them I was going through all of this and they didn't believe me. And so now he sees that. So that our relationship actually is much better since then, and we've come to an understanding, which is great, and but yes, it's very hard, especially as a teenager, because you don't know what's right or wrong, and you don't know what's normal and not, and you're still learning, and you're going through all these changes, and your parents are the people that you go to. And so, which also plays into the fact that you can choose your own family, That's wonderful.
I've built my own.
Yes.
Didn't
build
you
your
say
own
you
family.
only had one sister? And I'm like, no, I got a few. I got a few sisters and a couple of brothers, and I had a mom and dad, but, my dad's still alive, my adopted dad. But both my parents are deceased, and, you build your own family. It's different. Even in the paranormal realm, like, I'm sure you consider Jack your family as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When I met him, we instantly clicked, and, I would talk to him constantly about all these problems, and I could, even when I was trying to get my car registered, I was like, Jack was with me the whole entire time. He even went with me to the DMV. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best, he's there, like a father figure to help me learn how to be an adult, which is exactly what I need, but he's also there to help me with the paranormal side to learn how to deal with that as well, which is exactly what I need. So it's really wonderful to have someone like that. And I've had to push my actual family aside because that's just so much negativity, and it's just not, you can't fix it. These things ruin your family. They completely make you feel like the black sheep, and they completely ruin anything good in your life. And sadly, that is one thing that I tried to repair, but I cannot. But it's okay because I have my paranormal family, so I have those people and lots of people and friends to help and for them to help me. It's wonderful. But yes, I met Jack at a paranormal convention, and we went on from there, and that's a very funny story because I actually didn't know who he was when I first met him.
Right.
And they introduced me, like, I was there helping my friend sell her jewelry, and I was just getting into the paranormal stuff. Like, I was brand new. I had no idea what any of this really was. I was just as shy about it, as like a little kid. This is weird. And they're like, "Oh, hey, this is Jack." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, Jack." And we shake hands and we're talking, and we got along really well, and then we all went out to dinner that night with Ellen McNeil, the Spirits of New England team founder, and my friends, and we had a blast. I still had no idea who he was. That night, I actually ended up accidentally friend requesting him on Facebook, but I guess I was too, shy to even check out his Facebook, so I still had no idea who he was. The next day, we hung out for pretty much the whole entire day at the convention, and then I went to his lecture, and that was at the end of the convention, and it wasn't until the middle of his lecture that I realized, when he played Haunted Case Files clips, that I realized who he was, because I used to see him on TV. So picture this, I'm sitting in the front row, I'm all happy because I'm oh, this is really cool, and some of my questions are being answered. And then I realized that I had been talking to a paranormal celebrity for the past 24 hours who I had seen on TV and had been starstruck. So I'm sinking into my chair, and I'm oh my god, no, what did I do? But yes, no, he's cool like that. That's what I like about Jack, because he is so down to earth and super cool, and you would never see any sort of ego with him. He's a very, very cool guy.
Well,
I know
that's so important.
Yes.
A lot of people talk about egos and stuff out there, and it blocks a lot of people, but there is, groups that are able to have paranormal unity, and a lot of people say that's impossible, which I don't believe so. That's like the guy friend telling his girlfriend you can't have male friends, Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. It's people are people. You can't control, you can't control what other people's genders are, but you can't worry about that stuff. People are people. And, so it's just, para-unity definitely can be reachable. And I think that it is a very important goal that we need to go forward to, because that's the only way the paranormal is going to go forward. Is if we all work together. We can't all have egos. That'd be horrible.
Otherwise, we'll just keep hitting the wall. We won't get anywhere, and we need to progress because there's so many people standing in our way anyways. Let's work together. It's really not that hard. Yeah, there's different people, and I won't name names. One I have a nickname for, I call him Dildo Baggins. I bet you can't guess who that is.
Oh, I would never know.
You would never guess who that
I would never know. I wonder who that is.
I'm so clever.
Yes, you are. Yeah,
No,
but
it's hard.
With him, yeah. He's a good entertainer, though. He wants to do it for TV, and, he got what he wanted, but, that's kind of a dangerous game to play in the paranormal, because you could end up with some bad stuff. But he gets the reactions that he wants, which is get out, and, go away. It's it works for him, I guess, but I feel bad for the spirits.
It's everywhere.
Exactly.
Well, my all-time favorite was Paranormal State, and then I do believe that Ryan Buell had an attachment, a demon or something, and there was always that Zozo thing going on. He really, really went downhill. He's trying to get it back now, and I support him because I right away was I think something attached to him and caused all this chaos in his life, and it's really sad, but he's doing really, really good, and I'm proud of him. But
That's
he's
awesome.
the one, he helped me to feel comfortable because as a kid, I face judgment and ridicule from kids and adults, and people telling me not to talk about that kind of stuff. So I just kept it to myself until 2012. That's when I came out of the paranormal closet.
Yes.
And I feel so much better now. I'm free.
Yeah, and it's great because it's hard for people like that, because that's a huge part of your life, and that's what you're supposed to be a part of, and that's part of your story and your path. And to have people keep you from moving forward in that, it's like 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And demonic attachments can do the same exact thing. Like with Ryan, they cause chaos. They cause you to fail. They can they're ancient and so powerful. They can do whatever they want. And they can influence anything. And, it's hard. But once you get to that realization that something's wrong and you can fix it, you are literally the strongest person ever. Especially to come out of the paranormal closet. Like, that's you accepting a huge part of you and going against the odds and going against all the people who said that you're crazy and this is not acceptable, and going with your gut and what you know is right. That's huge. And it's super relieving. Like, you get all your questions finally answered, and you find tons of people who support you. And I actually realized this recently, is now that I'm meeting with people my own age, it's not awkward anymore, which is fantastic. Because, when you walk into a room and you're trying to connect with people and you just can't, and it's just super awkward. I totally don't get that anymore, and I'm so happy. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's good to find that accepting group, and I find that here in the Spreaker chat and through my paranormal team, that's part of my family. We're so close, and we have a lot of fun together. We haven't been together for a while, so we're trying to get something set up, but it's important to have friends in this field for sure. And I was saying earlier, never go on an investigation or cleansing, whatever you want to call it, by yourself. So did you used to poke around with that stuff on your own, or have you always taken somebody with you? And what was your first investigation with Jack? Yes,
so I always believe never go alone, because you always need someone to watch your back, because you don't have eyes in the back of your head. As much as aware you may be, you don't know everything that's around you, so it's always good to have 2 people kind of there to back you up. And my first investigation with Jack was actually Hinsdale House last year, and we had just gone back last weekend for a second time there, which was fantastic. But yeah, the first investigation, that was really that was a whole new side of things of the paranormal that I had never seen before. All new equipment. I had no idea what a K2 was. I was that brand new. And it was really cool because Jack was super patient. He explained all of the equipment and let me hold some of the equipment through the investigation. And I always had someone that I felt comfortable with around, him and Ellen, and I met lots of awesome, cool new friends that I still hang out with today. And it was a really, really good first investigation into the paranormal, and we got some really good activity. But that was also the time that I was first able to tell my story and get help. That was really interesting because we were using a spirit box. And the spirit that was coming across really wanted to talk to me and was answering all of my questions, but not really anybody else's. And they kept, saying, help. And Jack came in, he goes, "Do you want us to help you?" And the spirit said, "No, Carly." And he said, "Do you want us to..." And I listened back on the audio for the Hinsdale House, and I still can't believe it. He said, Jack said, "Do you want us to help Carly?" And clear as day, it came, "Yes." And I kept getting images of flashbacks of everything that I had gone through. So I was like, no, I don't want to talk about this right now. They're not around. Strangely, they weren't around. I'm like, this is like a breath of fresh air. I really don't want to go down this road. And it just kept getting stronger and stronger. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So I said to the spirit box, I said, "Do you want me to talk about what you're showing me? Do you do you know what is going on with me? And it said yes. So then I told everybody what had been going on, and they were able to help me and actually answer a lot of my questions. And I had no idea they were demonic, but they told me that they definitely were, which makes sense. So that was my very first step really into the paranormal, that grounded me into the paranormal. And I haven't turned back since, which is great.
Yeah, it's always good to move forward.
Yes.
During investigations, do you have a favorite tool that you like to use?
Me, since I'm so new, I like to stick to a K2 and a recorder and my own abilities. I typically like to stay quiet and kind of get a feel around for the place, and I'll ask questions based on what I'm feeling. And I'll typically kind of do a walk around and see how each room feels different to each other, and kind of try to get a feel of who stays in what room and stuff, and what may have happened there. And I'm getting very surprised because I've been flexing my psychic muscles so much that it's gotten stronger, so I'm very happy that it's working out. But yeah, the K2 and a recorder, just the basics. Nothing really too fancy, because I don't want to get too much into it yet, since I'm still new.
Yeah, and like my favorite tool is myself, like using my instincts, what I'm picking up on. And that's where I have a clash with my group. Like, I'll say, let's go over here and do this. And they're like, well, we need to have a pre-investigation. And I like to go in cold. I don't want to go in and interview and find out what all the facts are. I like to go in and find what I find and then compare it to what the facts are. But they like to go in and find out what the issues are, so on and so forth, and then move from there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like to go
That
in
is a
cold.
clash.
Yeah, and they like to go in knowing.
Yeah, but that's also why you have multiple team members. Like, you guys can each do your own thing. It's like you work on each other's strengths and weaknesses. You know what I mean? Like, that's a similar thing with Jack and I when we go to do a client investigation. Is he'll usually get the client information, or sometimes I will, and then we'll go in. We'll do a walk around, kind of get a feel of the place, and then we'll talk to the client and, go over the information that they gave us. Because we had them fill out a 13-page form before we even set up a date to come over, so that we know, where they are, kind of medication they take, any mental illness history in the family, or any mental illnesses that they may have, what's the history of the building, what kind of experiences have they had. But yeah, I think it's important to kind of get your own feel of the place, because you never really know what you're dealing with until you get there. You never know. So it's good to have the information previously, but you never really know until you're actually there and you get a good feel of the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, the mind is a powerful thing, and if you know things, you can trick yourself into seeing or believing or hearing certain things, So I like to go in and just have my own experience and then find out what the actual experiences and story is there. But yeah, it's very interesting. I love doing it, and like I was saying earlier, I consider myself a paraholic. Like, I love this stuff.
That's awesome.
And helping people is the big thing. And you guys don't charge, right? You guys volunteer your time, and you can actually go broke doing this stuff. Like, I bought this equipment before my team was really big, but holy shnikes. We don't make money.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, give money, but otherwise you're just floating on your own boat and hoping to be able to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what day jobs are for. That's why people usually investigate at the nighttime, because we all have day jobs.
And
so
the
that's what
weekends.
pays. Yes, and the weekends. That's what pays for this paranormal, paraholic stuff. Yeah. But I totally agree. You can definitely, it's an addiction. You can go broke before you even realize it. Yep.
Yeah, equipment can be very expensive. And it's, when you find a deal, you're afraid to get it because you're afraid, like, maybe it's a scam and it's some bunk equipment. But, yeah. Very pricey.
Yes.
Do you guys have an X-Cam?
No. I don't think we do.
Yeah, we don't either. That's our next one on our bucket list.
That's cool. That would be really cool to have. We just got an SLS camera from a friend of ours, and that is really cool. That's very interesting to see, because we've gotten some pretty interesting stuff off of it.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. I just call it the old school name, but it's, I think
the
it's
old school name?
Yeah, it's an SLS. It shows the little stick figure.
Yes. So I guess we do have it. But it's very, very cool. The one thing that you have to be careful with that I saw is mirrors, because you don't really know what's reflecting in the mirrors, but you can get some really, really cool stuff off of it.
Yeah, and I would think like metal or stainless steel objects like a refrigerator or whatever else can reflect body heat as well, or different anomalies, but it's so interesting. I never had one, but we had an Xbox in our house and a Kinect, and the kids would play on it, and then different random weird things would happen, and we have a lot of spirits coming in and out of our house, and there'd be two kids playing, and then all of a sudden there's this little figure over to the side, or this really tall figure in the back, and nobody's there. And at
that's cool.
Yeah, and at one point we didn't even have it on, and then it started moving around and stuff, and I don't know. Technology is weird. Kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, that is weird. Yes, that would happen to me at my old apartment. Like, I'd be up, close to midnight, 1 o'clock, trying to do homework so I can go to sleep, and my Xbox upstairs would turn on by itself, and I'm like, okay, it was connected to a one of those it's getting late, I'm forgetting the word for it. The plugins. It was connected to a plug, but the switch was turned off, so it was technically there was no power coming to the Xbox. So they flipped the switch and turned on the Xbox, so that was interesting. But stuff like that would happen all the time. That's really weird. That's another thing that I like about the paranormal, is there's so much unknown, so you can really do a lot of research into how spirit interacts with technology, because there's so many different ways, which is really cool. There's so many different theories out there that it's endless.
Yeah, and I was talking about that earlier because we did an interview for Durango Magazine, but every story, every haunting has a different story, and not everything works for each case. You have to do different things to solve different cases. Like, there's so many different variations, but that's what keeps it interesting instead of being monotonous and boring and, God, do I have to do this again? Like, it's so intriguing to kind of solve the puzzle or the mystery or whatever's going on there.
Yeah, exactly. Not every haunting is the same. It always keeps you on your toes. And something may not appear as it really is. So you always have to be careful with that too. Always keep a good defense up.
So what is your favorite case that you've worked?
My favorite case that I've worked probably would be a case that involved an 8-year-old, which was very interesting because we had gone over there because they were having lots of activity, particularly in the 8-year-old's bedroom. They had a mirror in the corner of her room where her bed used to be that had looked like someone had spilled milk on it. And it was very weird because there was also, the substance was also on the floor coming away from the mirror. And they don't allow food upstairs. That's only food allowed in the kitchen. They're very, very strict about it. And what it had looked like was something had come out of the mirror and like kind of all the stuff splashed on the floor. And you could see footprints coming from the mirror that morphed from animal to human. So when we saw that, we were like, okay, this is getting really bad. And the 8-year-old had actually gotten really sick. And she was taking frequent hospital trips and They weren't sure what was going on, and she had seen black figures. Random alarms were going off in the night, in the like as threes, which we were like, oh no, okay. And the interesting that had happened was they didn't do any. They never investigated their own home. The only time they were interested in the paranormal was the TV shows, and it wasn't until I had like a side conversation with the kid, just trying to get to know her, that she had told me she used the Ouija board app in her room one night. And I was like, aha! That was the only thing that could have brought this thing in, and she used it in that same corner that the mirror was in. And I was so amazed, because I'm like, that was the time I realized, I'm like, an app works. Like, that the app worked, and she had gotten it, used it, freaked out when it started getting really accurate, and uninstalled it, but she never closed the session. She just uninstalled it from her iPad that she was using. And so then we were able to get a better situation on what's going on, and we ended up contacting Michelle DeRoche, another investigator out in Canada, and with her help, we ended up resolving the situation, which was fantastic. I was so happy. I feel horrible when kids are involved in these cases, because they don't know what kind of trouble they're getting into, and they're so innocent, and the paranormal preys on that innocence. So that would have to be my favorite case, because it resolved so well.
Yes, when you get a resolution that it really sticks with you, and you're like, I did something.
Yes, absolutely. I have drawings that she drew for me on my fridge in my kitchen. I was like, we were so close with these clients that it was really nice. I'm really glad that things worked out for them, because it's not a one and done. You don't just wave a magic wand and it's done. It takes time with these clients to figure out what's going on, and to help them with lifestyle changes. In this case, it was having the kids stop downloading paranormal apps and trying to communicate with spirits,
Right?
But, and it's just, it was really nice. So.
Have you ever had anything try to attach to you or come home with you?
Yeah. So one of the first couple client investigations I had done a Reiki session on a client to kind of like pick her up and dust her off. But during the session, the spirit had approached us, and I was trying to push him away, but he was one of those misogynistic old men that didn't like to listen to females, and so he got angry when I removed him as an attachment from the client. And I figured everything was all good and done, and the client felt so much better from it, and I was really happy. And then I went home. Jack had dropped off the equipment and left my apartment, and he's the only one with a key to my apartment. So I was in the bathroom. It was probably close to midnight. I was in the bathroom getting ready for bed, and the door's closed, but I hear someone open the door to my apartment and walk by the bathroom into the living room. So I texted Jack, and I was like, "Ha! Did you forget something?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "You just walked into my apartment. Did you forget something?" And he goes, "I'm in bed." And he sent me a picture of him in bed, and I'm like, oh, no. So I open the door to the bathroom, and I look in the living room, and there was the old man sitting at one of my tables staring at me. And I freaked out, and I ran into my bedroom, and I called Jack right away, and I was like, there was this guy sitting at the table, and I don't know what to do. And I'm trying to tell him to go away, but I think I was so scared that I didn't. Because he was such a negative, grumpy old man that I was actually legitimately scared, and I didn't know what to do. So I threw the phone out of the bedroom door onto the floor. It like slid on the floor, and I had put it on speaker, and Jack was like, "You need to get out right now, or I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna sage your ass away," And I heard the guy get up and walk out. And he was gone. So that was the only time I ever really had anything follow me home. So then after that, I was like, okay, I'm grounding every morning, every night. I'm shielding. Nothing can come home with me. You know, I don't want to live in a haunted home again. You know, nope, off limits. You know, I won't even really allow Ouija boards in the apartment. Like, Jack will take Ouija boards from clients, we have a friend who collects Ouija boards. And,
Yeah,
there's
take
very
it to the
special-
storage or
Yes, right. There's very special circumstances that we can have a Ouija board in my apartment, is if it's, like, we have one that's sealed, blessed, you know, completely closed, non-usable at all, and then we have one that's still in the package, unopened, like, unused. Then we haven't had any activity in the apartment, so it's all good. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Ouija boards. So, yep.
Yeah, I used one once, and then my mentor, she would use it like a cell phone, and she was going through the process of treating her cancer, so on and so forth, and she'd hear noises as she's in the bathtub from the living room, and different things would be going off, like she had books from when she'd babysit Winnie the Pooh book, Let's Be Friends book, and it'd go off, and then she said she came out in the drawer where the Ouija board was open, and the Ouija board was sticking out, and I'm like, that is too much. Like, you shouldn't be messing with that stuff. Like,
Yep. Nope.
and she invited me. She's like, hey, we're going to use the Ouija board tonight and have a seance, blah, blah, blah. You want to come? And I'm like, no, I don't want to use it, but I'll film it if you want me to. And she's like, no, that's okay. But
Yeah, no. I don't even want to be in the same room. I had one instance with a Ouija board, where I was at a sleepover, and there were tons of girls there, and they were using the Ouija board, and me, with my gut, I knew something wasn't right, and I'm like, no, this is really dangerous, you guys don't know what you're doing, you know, you really shouldn't be doing this. I ended up getting locked in a closet with a candle crying, and I wasn't even in the same room. And, you know, just by being the scared, weak link, the weakest link out of all of them, that's opens you up to attachments. So they go for anything that can come through goes for the weakest link. You know, that was my only interaction, my first and last interaction with the Ouija board. So yeah, I can't even imagine having that happen where the Ouija board's like involved with activity in the house. Oh, that would freak me out beyond what's imaginable. Oh my gosh.
well, I always think, like, whoever started the Ouija board and produced it was genius, like, producing it to children who would run away scared and not close it out. And, you know, how better to produce it to the public as this is not real, this is just, you know, a parlor game to have fun. And, you know, it's really not a good thing. But then people say using tools that we use in the field is the same. Do you think that's true, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's a sticky topic because Ouija boards are advertised as communication with spirits, whereas the technology that we use, like a K2 or a recorder that we use, the surgeons use at the surgery center that I work at, like the K2 is used in engineering. You know, it's like used for actual practical daily tasks. It's same thing with dowsing rods. They're used to find pipelines. You know, the Ouija board was advertised and sold as a spirit communication device. So you have that difference there, but yes, spirit can interact with anything, you know, as long as you're using it as the intent for spirit communication. You know, just like they can use us for spirit communication. They can use anything. It's all energy. But it's definitely dangerous to have spirit communication be advertised as a toy for children, you know, 8 and over, I think it is. You know, that's not really okay. Because they definitely... Yeah, no.
Not good. Not even under parent supervision. But,
no, because there's definitely a specific way to do it, because they actually train people at Lilydale how to do Ouija board sessions and seances and spirit board seances there. And you can be certified to do it. Which is great that they have that. that is available for people to learn how to properly do seances and with protection. Make sure that the board is closed after and there's salt around the board and around you, and how to properly do the ceremony, because you also have to be respectful to the process. You can't just willy-nilly open up a portal, expect communication, and just yep, it's fine. It's serious. It's spirit. That's serious. It's a serious topic. So people sometimes don't take that as seriously, which is sad.
Well, yeah, and even with ghost hunting, like, people will just go into a cemetery or wherever else, and I hate it when people provoke. Do you ever use that as a tool? Like, I don't see it as being productive. I guess it could cause something to flare up that generally wouldn't, but at the same time, wouldn't you rather take more time going back to this place than to insult it and cause some sort of harm to yourself or someone on your team?
Yeah, and there's different types of provoking too. We do use a provoking method, but we do it respectfully. So, like, sometimes if you read out names, that'll kind of spike up activity. But also if you say, like, if there's some sort of piece of history saying this person, or it's written in history that this person, say like Tina or someone, murdered this person, and that wasn't true. You could get, that's a method of provoking. You could get activity from that. You could get an EVP saying no, or that's wrong. It depends on the provoking method. Well, when you have that other guy with that nickname that you use who is like, how did you die here? And, it's very disrespectful. That's not the type of provoking method that I recommend or I use at all, because you're talking to humans. I mean, you wouldn't go up to a human and talk like that. I mean, you would get the same reaction that they get from spirit, which is get out, no, and barely get any activity because you're being completely disrespectful.
What is the biggest piece of evidence that you have witnessed or been a party to?
Ooh. Let's see. I've been a witness to a lot of evidence. But the biggest or the coolest one that I've been a part of, I would have to say it was recent for the, at the Lookout House for the, we went to the Lookout House bed and breakfast for the, National Ghost Hunt day and night thing, and it was awesome. Like, there was tons of activity. They were doing live feeds, but we were in this one room where a ball was on a table. Steve Berry had come into the room, and we were getting some cool stuff coming through the spirit box, but what really got it going was Steve had said that the spirits in the old schoolhouse were saying that they're a lot stronger than you guys, and they can move the ball on the table, more than you guys can. And that ball literally started almost spinning, and it was moving across the table, and no one was walking. Everyone was sitting down. There was no breeze in the room, and we're just all staring at it like, oh, that's so cool. I'd never seen that before, and that was really cool. Steve gets
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Steve just gets really good activity in that room because it really shows how close you can get to spirits when you're a part of that. Mm-hmm. And it's really, really cool to see that, how they respect you and you respect them, and you can playfully provoke, which is fun.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between playfully and disrespectfully,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Once you get to know a spirit, you get to know their sense of humor, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But if you go in there just balls out, insulting them and trying to draw them out because they won't say anything, and slewing out what story you've heard or so on and so forth, like, I don't know. That to me is not good. And even just going in to cleanse a place, a spirit will attack you. I've had that happen as well. Have you ever physically been attacked by a spirit?
Yes, in my personal haunting for the 8 years, yes. I have been pushed, punched, kicked, or whatever, I don't know. I was hit really hard, scratched. Even recently in my apartment, I had been scratched. I don't know what it was from. It was like a hit and run, pretty much, because we had Michelle do a quick run through my apartment remotely, and she was like, yeah, no, that must have been a hit and run, because I just had some scratches sitting down on my couch. But yes, I have. Yeah, and it's really important to have that spiritual protection. You know, that we talk about grounding and shielding and having the crystals, and if you have a faith, relying on that positive faith, you know, to protect you.
Yeah, you definitely need to use different protections that you believe in. Like, you might have a friend on your team that does something very different. Whatever you have faith in, whatever you believe in, that's what you should use. It's really important to believe in it. You know, you can't just willy-nilly be like, oh, I'm going to do this to protect myself. If you don't believe in it, it's not going to work.
Exactly. And especially with clients, if they don't believe that we can help them, it's not going to work. You just if you say, like, you know, I don't think you can help me, well, you just totally disarmed us, because then we can't help you. You know, like, well, then really we can't, so we need to find another person to help you. You know, it works both ways. It's so hard sometimes. But it's so rewarding in the end.
Indeed. And like I was telling Jack earlier, like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. There's been specific people that we've tried to help that you give them advice and then they don't follow it. And then 2 years later, they're contacting you again saying, hey, it's gotten way worse. Like, can you help us out? Well, did you do what we asked you to in the first place? No. Well, then we can't help you. You have to help yourself before we can help you. Like, we can't do it all.
Exactly. It's not a magic wand, you know. And Jack always says that nothing terrifies a client more than telling them they have to be an active participant in resolving their haunting. And I know how scary it can be, because that involves things that you wouldn't even think about, like therapy, you know, maybe probably being put on medication if it's needed. You know, that is scary, because you're going back to those bad traumatic things that happened and resolving them. But through all the hard work, I can tell you firsthand that it really is like a weight's being lifted off your shoulders. You know, it makes you feel good. You can wake up in the morning and go, wow, life is good, which is fantastic.
Well, Carly, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight and covering for Jack, because he's got to study up for teaching peeps about the paranormal tomorrow. I'm so proud of him. I'm so glad he's paving the way for the future there.
Yeah, it's so exciting to be a part of that too. Thank you for letting me on. But yes, it's really, really cool, and I'm excited for what's ahead with that. He's doing a fantastic job. It's like seeing a little kid in a candy store, you know. He's so excited about it, and, you know, he really has a passion for it. So I'm very happy for him.
Yeah, you can really tell and see it. Well, is there any website or anything that you'd like to share with our listeners to find you guys?
Sure, yeah. So if you ever want to reach me, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/carly.hall1011. You can also reach me at my email, psychiccarlyhall@gmail.com. That's really it, really. No more plugs. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or if you want to talk, I'm always free to talk.
Well, thanks again, Carly, and happy belated birthday yesterday.
Thank you. Yes, yesterday, the big 23.
All right. I was like, man.
Awesome.
I'm trying to remember back when I was 23, and I'm just like, holy shnikes. That was a long time ago.
Time flies when you're having fun, though. Yeah.
Right?
I'm sure I'll be like that soon.
Well, thank you so much again for being here, and I hope to have you and Jack back soon.
Awesome, yeah, absolutely.
And thank you to all of our listeners on We Are Paradox Media, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening in the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night with guest R.L. Poole, talking to Ed Leedskalden, talking about the Coral Castle. How'd he do that? Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media. Without you, there is no us. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you back here, same time, same place. Feel free to join us on our Skype after party at 1-970-335-9596, or send me a contact request at Tessa Thomas-Peterson. Thanks so much again for joining us in Paradox Media Portal. We shall see you again tomorrow night. Until then, take care of my yous.